most of these underground bands, they got day jobs too. They clean toilets, like, I just call it clean toilets. Like, they're that. It's not Gene Simmons, who's you're not going to see, up close and personal. If you want to spend time with Mick Jagger, it's going to cost you a fucking $5-10 to stand in front of the motherfucker, but not Billy Bob from, Anal Massacre. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, what the fuck? It's literally that stupid, brother. It's that fucking stupid. And you're just seeing it. And then you have this fucking clown that says, well, they got to make money too. And you're like, they didn't make it on the $45 long sleeve that I know making shit cost about $325 to make. Right there, they done got you for $42. I was like, if you want to buy something from me that's going to turn around, fine. And some people are like, well, it's my money. You're right. If you want to do it, do it. But if someone's going to ask me a question like you just asked me, I'm going to fucking say how I feel about it.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 239 of Into the Necrosphere. Every once in a while, I will record a conversation with a guest where, when I'm done, I kind of sit back, reflect on what's been said, and I wonder to myself, how in the fuck am I going to top that? That is almost certainly the case with this installment of the show, and that should come as no surprise because I have heard the calls of the Legion, finally, to have on as a guest King Fowley, the legend of legends, champion of champions, the frontman for Deceased. Deceased have got a brand new record coming out called Children of the Morgue that drops on August the 30th via Hell's Headbangers Records. That was one of the topics under discussion, but trust me, to give you a rundown of everything else that we covered over the course of 90 minutes is probably to do this chat an injustice. This was fucking wild, and I cannot wait for you to hear it. But first, as anybody who has followed the show for any length of time knows, we kick off every episode of Into the Necrosphere by channeling, celebrating the spirit of independence. A couple of weeks ago, I played you a track by a Into the Necrosphere favorite called Drugoth, and that came off of his split EP, We Are Legion. This week, it is the opportunity for the other half of the equation, his co-conspirator, Shograath, to step into the independent band spotlight. Off of the EP, We Are Legion, this is a track called War Come Unfurled.
disfigured beyond what's left.
That was War Come Unfurled by Shograath, one half of the equation responsible for bringing you the absolutely crushing EP, We Are Legion. That's available right now on Bandcamp. Link in the description to the podcast. Head over there and show Drugoth and Shograath your love and support. If you like Drugoth, the man himself will be a guest later on in this podcast on my news rant. So don't go anywhere once I'm done talking to King Fowley, because more good things coming your way. Speaking of good things, you should be aware that I am a member of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, proudly dedicated to bringing you the highest quality entertainment from Monday to Sunday, and we kick off every week with another installment of Horrorwolf 666, hosted by Brandon Legion. Every Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere. On a Wednesday, Mike Hill of the bands Tombs and Scorpion Throne brings you the first of his two podcasts of the week, Everything Went Black. We double up your pleasure every other Wednesday when Cheyenne of the band Trivax deploys another episode of Iblis Manifestations. Mike Hill is back with a vengeance every Thursday alongside his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scandado and Professor Jeff Kashid with Necromaniacs, one of my favorite podcasts of the week. They review old and new horror movies. Always super entertaining, super informative, and really excited about what they have in the pipe as we come closer to Halloween. Also on a Thursday, and then again every Sunday, the inimitable Sinister Minister, the Reverend Carl Hikara, brings you a curated journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric with his podcast, Soul Knocks. And there you have it, folks. A lineup amongst lineups, and all we ask is that you share our content on the socials, you foist it on your enemies, and wherever possible, leave us a 5-star review, a like, a comment, or whatever else the spirit moves you to do. Like I said earlier on, don't go anywhere when I am done with the interview segment of the show, because the news rant is coming your way. And this week, Drugoth and I are talking about UFC 305. We're also listening to brand new songs by Fleshgod Apocalypse, Veilburner, Devenial Verdict, Devin Townsend, and more. Right now, though, buckle up, particularly if you are of sensitive disposition, as I welcome the legend of legends, King Fowley of Deceased. The interviews that you did with J-Dog, including the one where you were separating fact from fiction with some of the Will Raymer legends that are out there,
right,
and some of the Glenn Benton and the Glenn Danzig legends out there. But one thing that stuck with me about that conversation, because you guys kind of spoke about it, but it is insane to me to think that next year this band is 40 years old.
It is 40 years old. If you had my back, you'd feel it too. It really, truthfully, it's even, I was telling a bunch of people this in interviews, it's actually past 40 right now. We actually me and Doug started doing this in 83, and we didn't put anything out, and started writing just bullshit rehearsals and, coming up with the most Death of Christ or Terror Inside the Coffin, just crazy names for songs. But it did become the name Deceased. And me and Mark Adams, the guitar player, we sort of see this differently. I have a letter from a pen pal that says we're changing the name to Deceased. It was January 14th, 1985. He says we didn't actually change it till June of 85. So we go with 85 and it's fine. But yes, it is coming up on 40 years. Nonstop, no went away, no went grunge, no college alternative, didn't go rap or get some different, vibe to it all. We've been Deceased, death metal from the grave, straight on through, my friend.
Do you ever take time to kind of, I guess, to sort of appreciate the fact that you guys have been around for 40 years? Because, and we'll touch on this, because I'm keen to get your view on the highs and lows of death metal over the course of 4 decades, of which there have been many. But just, I mean, you're older as a band than probably the average person that attends your shows.
Right. We just turned my phone off. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Yes, I am. I'm 56 years old right now. And yes, I've seen all the eras, the great Tape Trader into the 80s, death metal's here, the Earache era when it was all Entombed and Carcass and Morbid Angel and all that stuff, then the Roadrunner era, the Suffocations, the Obituaries, all that stuff, and the highs and lows. And I've had friends in those bands and some other bands, and I've seen them rise up, or some of them lose their way, get egotistical, or not really keeping, what I consider the underground, kind of get away from it. And some people went for the money, or the little bit of money there is in the underground. And it all just bounces off me, speaking for myself personally. It just bounces off me. We just do what we do. We've always we've been different, a little bit different, even from the start. When we started the band, we loved everything that had come down the path. It could have been the Beatles. It could have been Kiss. We didn't forget where we came from. The growing up on Pat Benatar, Ted Nugent, Heart, as kids, etc. Mark's first concert was the Cars. Mine was Kiss. And then from there, getting into that metal stuff. And we just always didn't have a problem, staying where we stood. Some people were like, I can't believe, I remember this in 86. I can't believe you guys still listen to Queensryche. They looked homo on their Rage for Order, and they did look like some gay vampires, but the record was amazing. Or that same year, my favorite records of 86 were like Black Sabbath, 7 Star, and Obsessed by Cruelty, Sodom, a Roar, things like that. So we didn't have a problem being to the left or to the right, or of what was popular or nothing. We never cared what was popular or trendy or any of that. I mean, I like to consider myself pretty smart when it comes to the music industry. I know how to go different places and succeed more than what we have. I won't go there. It's not what I feel in music I want to do. I didn't set out to make money at this. Sure, I'm not. If someone's going to give me some money, I'm going to gladly accept it if I've earned it. But I don't go out of my way to hoard and all that kind of stuff. And the band is never, ever going to go that path. I mean, after 40 years, it's kind of obvious what we are. We'll stay somewhere grounded in the middle. We don't need to be too high or too low. Saw a review the other day, somewhere on the record. Someone said, "Oh, you guys have always sucked. Give it up, grandpas." And then the next one said, "These guys are better than Iron Maiden in their prime." Now, what do I do? Hang my head low and go, oh man, this guy says we're grandpa's quit? Or do I go, dude, we're better than Iron Maiden? I don't go either place. I just keep doing what I do. We just keep doing what we do. And that's kind of how we've gotten through all this, you know, through all these ups and downs. And when grunge was in and metal was a bad word, we were putting out Fearless Undead Machines. Everybody else was like, let's just get Tough Guy and turn into Pantera, you know? It just wasn't fun.
This is
what we do.
This is the thing with you guys as a band. I mean, you have never, ever been afraid to color outside of the lines. And I think particularly for younger fans, like nowadays in death metal and black metal especially, I think the definition of what sits within that genre has become so broad. There's room, quote unquote, for loads of different bands, loads of different sounds. But the scene that you guys came from was musically and creatively quite conservative. You guys sort of forged your own path from the get-go. It's not like you sort of hit 2005 and said, well, listen, we're going to start incorporating all of these different progressive elements or, you know, like elements from, you know, classic heavy metal, from thrash and stuff into our sound. If you take Luck of the Corpse, The Blueprints for Madness, and Fearless Undead Machines, and you listen to them back to back to back, they're very, very different records.
Yes, and I think they were very honestly different because for the start, I'm going to use Supernatural Addiction as my go-to here. When we did Supernatural Addiction, In Flames and all that melodic, you know, kind of death metal was really taking off, Sweden and all that kind of stuff. And people were saying, "Oh, look, Deceased, they want to be In Flames now." No, we didn't. We always loved Iron Maiden, which is what In Flames was taking from. And basically, by the time we went from Luck of the Corpse, or say our first demos of 86 to 2000, it's 14 years on. Now we can play leads in key. Now we know how to do dual harmonies without cheating them and putting them on the record one way and then going live and blowing it. We matured as we went on. I don't like to use that word because we're still kids at heart. We still love fart jokes, man. We still love fart jokes. And as we went along, it's just how it goes. Luck of the Corpse was its own entity because, first off, that was the first things we ever wrote with, and we had Doug Souther on guitar, who helped write a lot of that stuff. When he moved on, we did the 13 Frightened Souls, which was just to introduce the new guitar player, Mike Smith. And then when we got to Blueprints, we were trying to figure out where we wanted to go with Mike now because Mike was new to the band. And so I stepped up and said, let's just do some crazy shit. I'm really in Emerson, Lake and Palmer right now. Let's mix that with everything we've done in the past. And I mean, originally that record was supposed to be like 20 songs that were 2 minutes each. And then we were like playing these songs. We're like, we're not the fucking Ramones. We got more to say than this. So we started piecing 2s and 3s of those songs together and making these awkward things. So when that was done and you get to Fearless, Mike finally, one day we were jamming at my house in my basement. He showed up early to practice with me and he's like, man, I just write heavy metal stuff. This is what's in my heart. It's hard for me to know where you want to go with this. How's this? And he played me the Silent Creature opening, which was very Wasted Years, right into a riff that was very Seven Gates of Hell Venom. And I'm like, I'm right there with you, brother. I was like, if this feels natural to you, it feels natural to me. We're not out to, we're not out to like change the course of what we're doing. This is what we are. And it became right there in 97, kind of like, this is what we are. And me and Mike basically took the bull by the horns from then on. And I arranged every song we've ever done since day one. But Mike started writing most of the riffs. And now he really writes almost all the riffs. He was still, me, Mark, and Les would contribute some guitar riffs then. But by the time we got to say As the Weird Travel On in 2005, it was almost exclusively Mike writing most of this stuff. With the new record, I'd say he wrote like 92% of it. Shane probably did like 7% of it. And I did 1% of, these are just guitar riffs I'm talking about. And so it's just a matter of where we went with it. But yeah, they are all different. But at the same time, they are 110% us.
Yeah, and I was going to ask. I mean, you've kind of touched on it already, but was it a conscious decision to just do whatever you want to do? How did the creative process work in those old days, and how has that evolved as the band has grown older? And I know you guys don't live in the same town and the same city anymore, so you kind of don't have
not even the same states.
there you go. You don't have the benefit of the that band room, the rehearsal, the songs developing organically. What was the creative process like in the early days, and then how did that evolve?
Taking it back, as I said, we got into the heavy metal stuff. We got to in the early 80s, it became Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Saxon, and then it was Anvil, then it was Hearing Fast as a Shark or Death Rider from Anthrax, and it was The Speed. So we loved that. We got into our heavily into Venom, and we liked the evil stuff. We got heavily into Voivod, so we liked the weird stuff. And then what we said was, let's be faster than Slayer, eviler than Merciful Fate and Venom, and weirder than Voivod. And so we were all smoking then, marijuana, PCP, LSD. That was a big part of that. We were crazy teenagers living in Virginia, which I don't know how much you know about Virginia, but nothing goes on in Virginia, man.
Yeah.
So we were we were the only, when I got into metal music, I was a loner. I was literally a loner. I didn't know one person in my town at all that was listening to Manowar or Warlord or Betsy Bitch, which, you're talking 82 here. And I was just like, well, I'll just listen to it on my own. I love it. And when that changed was my girlfriend brought a guy over from school, they skipped school one day, and he was like, what are you listening to? It was Manowar. And he loved it. And we became best friends. And, he kind of like, he picked up a guitar, and I was like, well, I'll probably play bass, but I couldn't play bass for shit. So I was like, well, we'll figure it out. We had a drummer, and he wasn't like, showing up. He was more in love with his girlfriend than his drum set. So it was me and him against the world, me and Doug, and I was playing his guitar case for drums. And then I went and saw Queensryche and Twisted Sister at a bar in DC. And I saw this guy ripping down a Queensryche, and we started talking, and he was like, yeah, man, what do you listen to? And I was like, Venom. I love Venom. He's like, you like Venom? I don't know anybody likes Venom. He was 2 towns over. And I was like, yeah. He's like, you like Metallica? I was like, fucking, I hate Metallica. They suck. He's like, you hate Metallica? I was like, dude, that stuff is goofy. I was like, I don't like the drumming. I don't like the singing. I don't like the guitar leads. I don't like nothing. And this was Kill 'Em All. And I was just like, I don't know, something about them. They just ride me funny. I was like, I'd rather listen to my punk, because by then I was into the Plasmatics and, that kind of stuff too. So he was like, wow, you guys are crazy. So he met up with us. We saw him at a Black Sabbath Born Again show at the arena a little bit later, and we started talking. I was like, man, if you want to jam, man. And I was like, he's like, I play guitar. He's like, I can play Fight Till Death from Slayer. I can play Break the Chain from Raven. I was like, well, come on over. We hadn't gotten far. Doug had just taken up guitar like 3-4 months, and he asked the guy to teach him. He learned Witching Hour from Venom, and he learned Feel the Fire from Overkill. And and they got together, and they're like, wow. So it was us 3 against the world. Everybody around us, fuck you, we're in this shit. And we would write, heavy metal, Venom, fucking fuck God, Voivod, and walk the streets like that, like a fucking idiot. But we were so into it, man. We were so fucking like, fuck you. So we're running around doing all that, and then we start to like, well, we got to put the songs. If we're going to have a band, let's put the songs. So we went through the motions, as I was saying earlier about the 1983, where me and Doug first started out. It was Evil Axe, which is a terrible name when you're 56, but at 15, it's kind of cool. And then it was Mace, and it was a Mad Butcher with 2 Ds to be different. Like, Def Leppard does it. Well, we're going to have 2 Ds, blah, blah, blah. And we had nothing. We had song titles. We had dreams, and all this. And to tell you the truth, we bullshitted Mark. We bullshitted Mark Adams the whole time. He's like, dude, you guys can't play. I was like, I know. He's like, but you, man, you're wild. You got a big fucking mouth. And man, I just think if you, got your thoughts together, we could do something, good. So by the time we rolled into 85, again, here we go. And then it became Deceased. We're writing songs. Now we're rolling. Now we're like, okay, there's times for this, there's times for that, but there's all the time for the music. And we started writing, and we just literally whatever came out. The first thing I ever wrote was March of the Cadavers, which sounded like Manowar. First thing Doug wrote was like After the Bloodshed. It sounded like early Sodom. Mark was writing Sick Thrash. It was sounding like early Slayer. So we were like, wow. And there was nobody in the area to go, hey, man, we got a band. You want to hear it? Because nobody knew what the fuck we were doing. So by 86, it was just still us 3. I was on drums. Our Marcel, our drummer that we were hoping to get in there, he just walked. So it was still us. We played a party. At that party, it was a birthday party for our friend's girlfriends, had a birthday for a friend of ours. We played as a 3-piece. Nobody was watching us except Mark's brother and this guy, Rob, who ended up being our bass player a little later. But we were doing Sepulchral Voice from Sodom. We were doing War from Bathory. We were doing Hella Waits intro into chemical warfare, bombs of death from Hyrax. Nobody fucking cared, but we loved it, man. And then people were like, yeah, there is this band, Deceased, they're crazy. They're like punk rock or something. They didn't know how to describe it. So we ended up on all these parties across the whole Northern Virginia area with these kids that their parents were like either doctors or lawyers and had these 40-acre fucking mansions out in the rich part of town. And so we did this and build up a little bit of a following, man. And so then it became like, wow, these guys are crazy. Then we got Rob in on bass and we recorded The Evil Side of Religion in somebody's attic. We just basically gave him $20 and a case of beer, and it was all live to tape except for the vocals came later. So that's how we started writing. And then as we went on, as I tell you, the maturity, then we got more serious, and we had a little bit of a down year in 87 because I quit drugs. It almost killed me. Cocaine just about took me out at 19. So that was a down year. But when we came back, we were ready to, start writing the second demo. And then our bass player was killed in a freak hit and run car accident, along with two other friends of ours and a fourth person who was crippled from it one night. It was actually the very first day we jammed again. Rob, our bass player, didn't make it. He was going to local college. And that night they were going to get us all together to go just hang out. And so they came by my house, and I was like, look, man, I'm still burned out from fucking coming off drugs, and we had a great jam. I'll see you guys tomorrow. So they started driving over to see if Mark was home. Mark was running late from a dinner. They started driving to Rob's house. They pulled over to the side of the road. They got a flat tire. The next thing you know, Doug went around to get a flashlight to evaluate it all. Everybody's standing outside the car. Van came over the hill, killed them all, except for one of them. The first guy saw it. He jumped up on the trunk of the car, got his legs flipped backwards. The next three, which included Doug's brother, a guy named Steve, a dear friend, Steve, and of course our brother, Rob, were all killed instantly. They were thrown over 100 feet in the air and killed. And the guy didn't even stop. He kept on going. He turned himself in the next day.
I was just about to ask. Did they ever catch the guy?
It was an Asian man. He was older. Turns out he was having a couple glasses of sake somewhere. He was a multimillionaire, owned a bunch of laundromats in Northern Virginia. And I never really asked Doug or any of the other families what became of it. I think the man served very little time in jail. He was basically saying they were standing in the road or some shit. I don't know all that. It was very touchy stuff. And Doug's mother did not want to discuss it. And that's not something you pry at. You know what I'm saying? No. So, but he did turn himself in. But then after that, we were like, well, damn, we just came back. This is our first day back. And fucking this happens. And we're all fucking so discouraged. We're fucking, I'm 19. I'm coming off of drugs. My mind's not right. These guys are, we're all in our terrible teens. And Doug just goes, let's fucking do this, man. Let's fucking do this. So we went and did a party as a 3-piece, 2 blocks from where the accident was. It was crazy. And we played the show, and this crazy Japanese kid came in there, tiny like the Blair Witch stick figure. And he's just got hair like Death Angel, and he's going nuts. And by the end of the night, my buddy Eddie goes, that's my buddy Les, man. He wants to play bass for you guys. And I said, really? Okay. I said, well, all right. Well, we're going to try some people out here soon. Let's bring him in. So he comes in, and he wasn't very good, but he was like, I love Voivod, Cryptic Slaughter. He knew what to say, and he was a super cool guy. So we tried one other dude out that was playing some funky slap bass bullshit. And I was like, let's get the Japanese kid in here. And then it was us 4 against the world. We did Perpetuation, 88. We really put all of our efforts into it. I was drug-free then, so my head was super clear. I became a better drummer. We repeated the same process in 89. Nuclear Exorcist, and then by then I'd pen palled everybody. With the first demo, we gave out for free over 2,500 copies for free, and so people back then, look, this is the band that gives their tapes away for free, and it was just my way of saying we ain't in this for the fucking money, man. Yeah, and, how much money's in some cassette demos? But back then, a lot of bands were charging like $8 for 2-song demos. I was like, here's 9 songs free, just right. And my mom's like, where are you getting these fucking stamps from? And all this. I said, can you steal them from work? So she did for a while, but then we figured out the old soap and stamps thing, that people used to do, where they'd put the soap on the stamps, mail them out, and then they'd mail them back to you. So that's where we came from. And as time went on, I'll let you, we can go from there. But that's where it all started. That's how we came up the ladder, and Trouble and all that. And the reason we call the first album Luck of the Corpse, it was Doug Souther who came up with that, was when things would happen wrong, he'd always say, it's the fucking luck of the corpse, man. It's the luck of the corpse. And I was like, what the hell? What are you saying? And he's like, it's just bad luck. And so I was like, wow. And he goes, and I said, we ever do an album, man, we're going to have to call it Luck of the Corpse. So we did.
Was getting I guess, pushing forward with the band with sort of the intensity that you described there, in a way, was that kind of your guys' way of honoring the memory or dealing with what had happened to your friends in that hit and run accident?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, for me, I needed direction. When I quit drugs, basically just 10-second backstory on that was I was so bad on drugs. I mean, I was about to die. I mean, we were, especially me and Mark, we were heavy in PCP. I mean, we were going into Washington, D.C. in the ghettos and buying it from very shady people. And it wasn't even phencyclidine type drugs, which is horrible in itself. A lot of it was embalming fluid put onto parsley that we smoked. And I'm telling you, one hit of this shit and you left the planet for about 4 hours. And we were all, so there's a lot of rewiring needed to be done for me. Mark's still doing the shit then. So, you know, I'm kind of like trying to take charge, and I had sent out so many tapes. I made so many pen pals the world over. I learned tape trading and all that, and I became pretty much the front man, you know, leader, whatever you want to call it, of the band. So, yes, it was totally like that, and we were locked in, and Les immediately fit in. So, you know, we're a family. It wasn't easy just to grab some dude off the street, but that's what happened. And it was we're definitely fortunate that Les was a little bit younger than us, but he was right there. Like, he was just as diehard and fucking blood strong with us from day one.
What was the catalyst, if you don't mind me asking, for you to get off drugs?
I had to quit because I had a girlfriend for a long time, high school sweetheart, and she was a good girl, and I was a fuck up. And she knew I was a fuck up in a way, but she didn't know how fucked up I was. One day we were at band practice at Doug's. We used to practice in his apartment, which the drums for them were a guitar case. There was no drum set and, you know, practice amps and shit. So that was our jam. Anyway, she had the car. I said, can you come pick me up and we'll get together for the night? Would you mind giving Mark a ride back to his house? And she said, sure. So she shows up and she's like, you look terrible. She's like, you're so fucking white. Are you okay? I was like, I don't know. I feel weird. We had just done a bunch of cocaine. We drive out, about a 25-minute drive to Mark's house. I start feeling worse. My heart just starts like it's going to blow. It's going to blow. And so we drop Mark off. We go around the corner and she pulls over and she goes, do you want to go to the hospital? She goes, something's wrong, really wrong. I said, maybe. And then she goes, look at your heart. It's beating so hard through your chest. So she took the tape recorder or the radio clock and she timed it. And it was going 240 beats a minute, which is 4 beats per minute. Yeah. And she's like, you okay? And I looked up, and I'm not a religious man. I looked up, I said, if there's anybody up there that put me on this fucking earth, if you can make this stop, I swear I'll never touch fucking cocaine again. And it went away. Not right then, but 10, 15 minutes, it subsided. So I kept my fucking end of the bargain. 2 weeks later, I'm back up at Doug's house. We're writing new riffs, sitting around smoking some bong hits, marijuana. I get the same feeling again. I get double scared now because I'm like, it's not the fucking cocaine. It's me. Something's fucking wrong with me. Called my mom, told her. She's like, I'll meet you at the house. Went to the house. I'm like, I need to go to the hospital. I'm freaking out. I don't know what's wrong. My heart's just crazy. You know, she's like, you're super. I'm already hyper. She's like, you're super hyper. You look terrible. She's like, I'm worried for you. She says, but I want to tell you something, Kingsley. She goes, all those days I could hear you in your room hitting that bong or partying with your friends all night long. There was nothing I could say to you to make you stop. It's going to take this to make you stop. You either stop and live your life or you fucking drop dead as you fucking, you know, as you are. And I said, I don't want to do this. I love life. I want to quit. So I fucking didn't even go to the hospital that night. I literally went cold turkey, and people were like, "Oh, no way, King Fowley went." You know, that's like Keith Richards going cold turkey because that's how fucked up I was then. And I was like, I ain't doing it. But then I started getting these serious panic attacks, nervous spells, couldn't eat, everything was freaking me out, and I basically reverted back to infancy. I basically did not go out of the house. I stayed with my mother in my mother's room, and she would go to work, and I would make myself sleep. And as soon as she came home, I'd be wide awake until 7 o'clock in the morning when she had to go to work again, and I'd fall out. And this went on for about 8 months. I didn't see my girlfriend. I didn't see my band. We didn't jam. They were really, really fucking worried about me. But I needed that to rewire my shit and get right. So when I got, you know, made it through all this, and as I just told you about the accident, the very first fucking day we came back and jammed at my house, that night's when Rob was killed. and Steve and our friends. So it was like all this, yeah, hooray, you know, Rocky wins the fight, and then goes home and, you know, and Adrian's dead.
Yeah.
So to speak. It was crazy, but you know, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. You know that, I'm sure. And I just said, fuck it, let's go. And then we were just hoping Doug was able, because he witnessed it all. And when he said, man, we're all in this together, man, let's fucking do this shit. He didn't say for anybody. He's like, let's just fucking go, man. That's what he said. And for the next 2.5 years, we were possessed to fucking be the best, to do it right and play good songs. And I mean, we lived it, man. We lived it 24/7.
What was how did the scene respond to you? Like, how did the other bands? Because, you know, this was at a time when bands like Deicide, Morbid Angel, Immolation, Mortician, bands like that are coming up as well. Anyone who's watched any documentaries about that period knows it was pretty competitive. How did they take to you guys?
We're still great friends with bands that, even if they're not around, like Revenant anymore, like I'm still best friends with Veg, Henry, and Immolation. We were just together in Mexico having some laughs. There was nothing like that. I mean, to me, Deicide and Morbid Angel had their demo, but that was a little later. We were I was pen pals with everybody. You could name it. Iron Angel in Germany, Darkness in Germany, Voivod in Canada. We were all buddies. We were all, and it was like we just wanted the underground to succeed. Where it all changed, and when I first time I ever saw underground's ass, so to speak, we were asked to play a festival, the Michigan Death Fest. It was Deceased, Morbid Angel, Sacrifice, Nuclear Death, Fatal, Ex Mortis, a couple other bands of the time. It was in a hockey arena. And we knew Metal Mom, the woman that put this on, she put her heart and soul and her pocketbook up for this. We showed up. There was like 800 kids in a hockey arena, which for underground in 90 was a lot of fucking people. We're like, wow, because at that point, we just started playing the clubs maybe a year prior. So we're like, wow, this is crazy. We get up there and everything's going fine. We're talking to people. Oh, man, can't wait to see you play. Oh, man, that's great. Oh, you're from here. Oh, and you're from there. You drove this far, blah, blah, blah. It's a brotherhood. It's sisterhood. And then it's coming time for us to play. And I'm like, yeah, let's put the banner up right here. And I hear King Fowley. And I looked over and it was Dave Vincent from Morbid Angel. He said, could you come over here for a minute? Now, just a little backlog on that. When I came back to playing drums in 1988, I got a call. I was friends with Richard Burnell. Okay, I knew Richard Burnell from Morbid Angel. Him, Trey, and Dave got on a 3-way phone call to me, asking me if I wanted to play drums for Morbid Angel. I was recommended by somebody. And I told them, thanks so much for the offer, but Deceased is my life. They're my brothers. We're going to make it or break it together. And literally, truthfully, Richard was cool with it, but I think Dave and Trey were like, how dare you fucking, not go with Morbid Angel. So whatever, they had that egotistical, those two had that. I basically told them, call Chris Reifert and Autopsy, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but somewhere Petey got in there from Terrorizer, so it worked itself out anyway. But so we sort of knew each other. And I walked over to him, I said, yeah, what's up? He goes, you ain't using your banner. I said, what do you mean we're not using our banner? No, you're not using our banner. We're putting ours up. Nobody else is using their banner. I said, that's bullshit. I said, somebody knows who you are. They're going to know who we are by us putting our banner up. And he's like, you're not going to use it. I said, watch. I said, you can fucking watch me. We're going to fucking use it. And then we kept talking and talking. And then eventually he was like, all right, man, you can use it. And I looked at him and I'm like, this isn't the Rolling fucking Stones. You aren't Kiss. Let's fucking, let's do this, man. Let's fucking be in this together. And he looked at me and he goes, I like, he said something like, I like your cut of whatever. And he's like, all right, man. So he even helped us put the thing up. But Trey Asgath, on the other hand, was running that Metal Mom to death. You've got 45 seconds to get me coffee or we're fucking walking. I'm fucking serious. He's just being a dick. So all that night, I was like, fuck this. So that was our first taste of what we did not want to be like. And then as time went on, next move was the all-time classic Day of Death in Buffalo, which is known as one of the best underground shows that ever was. Deceased, Suffocation, Mortician, Goraphobia, Disharmonic Orchestra, Autopsy, Cannibal Corpse, and so on and so on. And that one went off without a hitch. Everybody was fine. There was no issues. So we were kind of like, well, all right, well, these guys here. And then you can move ahead a decade or so. And we got asked to play another show with Morbid Angel. Now, by then, Dave was gone. Steve Tucker was in the band. Somebody called and said, we'd like you guys to come play New York. We've got Nile, who are up and coming with Relapse at the time, and we've got Morbid Angel. And I was like, looking at the guys like, oh, we want to play with fucking Morbid Angel? We ain't fucked with them in a while. And they were like, well, whatever, let's go. So we go up there. The person says, we can't give you much money. You're kind of doing it. And I was like, look, we'll take the show. It's fucking fine. We'll open up. We got tons of friends in New York. Let's have some fun. It's a Friday night. As soon as we walk into place, an old pen pal guy of mine who became their manager or part manager, this guy named Gunther, he goes, I got to ask you to do one thing before you set up. I said, what's that? He goes, you can't sell any merch within 1 mile of the club.
What?
Why that? He goes, nope. He goes, you cannot do it. All the money, all the people are here for is for us to make the shirt money and Nile. It's the package. You cannot do it. And I'm like, really? I was like, we're getting like $50 and we drove up like 4 hours each way and turnpike fees. I was like, and they're like, he's like, I don't care. And I knew the guy. It wasn't like it was I knew him. I was like, Gunther, that's fucked up. So I looked at the guys and said, do you want to walk? And they're like, we're here, man. Fuck it. So we put all the merch back in the fucking van and we went inside and we went to play. So we went up first, great crowd. Crowd did great. We even got, to see play one more. We didn't do that. It's not our fucking place or our show to do that. I see Trey on the side. Cut him. Don't let him play one more. We weren't going to do it anyway. Go downstairs. We're sitting in the back room. Niall's up next. We're sharing a room with them, and there's one other room. Now, I know you've got your clubs over there. This is a club with asphalt walls and, cement, this and that. And it's Friday night, and death metal's playing on stage. Niall, we're back there drinking some beers. Fuck yeah, fucking Venom, fucking Chemical Warfare. We're just yelling and drinking. And all of a sudden, a security guard walks in, and it's a guy named Paul Bearer who plays in a band called Sheer Terror, who I knew from a friend of mine named Rennie. Anyway, he comes up, he goes, King, man, this guy in this fucking band over here. I said, who? Trey? He goes, yeah, I think that's his name. He wants you guys to be quiet. He's got a headache. And I was like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So he walks away, and we're just sitting there. So I was like, all right, keep it down a little bit, and then we're just like back to what we're doing, and it gets loud again. So Trey comes in, and he goes, King Fowley? I said, yeah. What are you doing here? I said, what the fuck you mean? What am I doing here? You motherfucker. You were just in the other fucking upstairs watching us play with the, get them off the stage fucking, act fucking look and shit. And he goes, no. I said, yeah. I said, what's your problem? He goes, I got a bad headache, man. Oh, man, can y'all just please bring this to a halt? And I'm like, what? So he walks away. I'm like, this is fucking weird. Y'all just want to get in the car and go back to Virginia? And they're like, no, we're here. Let's do it. So we go on yelling some more. The lady that was running the show comes in. Your fucking band is asked to leave. I'm in charge here. What do I owe you? $50 fucking for your shit band? Threw it at it, handed it to me. I looked at her and I called her a fucking cunt and spit in her face and gave her money back. So we walked out and we're like, you believe this shit? Fuck this Morbid Angel band. Fuck this fucking band. We go outside and sure enough, here comes one guy. Hey, man, can I get one of those shirts from you, man? Now that you guys are leaving, I want to get a shirt. Don't forget me. And I said, yeah, man. I went into my bag. I had like 2 shirts and I went to pull one out. And sure enough, Gunther, the manager guy, King, remember with the contract you signed? Literally, I'm like, really? After all that, really? I can't sell this guy a fucking $15 t-shirt real quick and get in the van and drive back to fucking Virginia? And I said, fuck you. And we just walked to the van, got in the van, started driving back to Virginia in the turnpike. And we looked at each other and we said, we're never, ever going to act like that. That is fucking lame. So that was our first, I won't call it jealousy, just problem band was then. The other bands of the time, as you're saying, jealousy or just, it's all competition. I never felt that in any way. We did what we did. If people liked it, so be it. If they didn't, so be it. We were different. We're still different. A couple years ago, we went into the European tour. We got asked to play Keep It True. We're playing Keep It True. It's like, here's Sinner, here's Jag Panzer, here's Halloween. And I get up there on stage and I go, hey, I don't sing like the dude from Halloween. And we're laughing. So we play and we're done. And some people got it and some people didn't. And that's what I thought would happen at basically a traditional heavy metal thing. We have plenty of that in our sound, but we also have some heavier stuff that might come off like Impetigo or Repulsion to them. So we finish. I remember some girls said, you guys were the best band. You guys were like Venom. You were so different from everybody else. And I was like, well, cool, thank you. So a week later, we play Neurotic Death Fest. And it's like Terrorizer, Pungent Stench, Dark Angel, all this shit, right? Now we sound like the fucking Carpenters on the fucking thing. I'm like, we're now the lightest band on the bill. And so when it was over, I remember someone came up to me and said, hey, it was cool, change your pace, because you guys have melody in your songs. Thought you were fantastic. And I was like, hey, well, cool, thank you. So some get it, some don't. We don't, as you said, we don't really fit right completely in with anybody. We kind of just do our thing. So we've always been that way, musically, personality wise, just the whole aura that is deceased.
Do you find in 2020 onwards, let's say, so last 4 or 5 years, do you still see some of that behavior in the scene that you were just describing earlier?
Well, my current pet peeve of the last few years is the VIP. People asking money for people to get autographs from or take a picture with. This is the fucking underground. You don't do that shit. We played a big festival in Maryland, not the Maryland Death Fest, but one called Hell in the Harbor last year. And a band was doing it. And I wanted to call them out, but I didn't, I was like, well, I'm just going to address it. So I started talking about it, and people were like, well, fuck that shit. I'm like, there's bands in here that want $100 to take a picture with them. And then someone somewhere was like, oh, they got to survive. I'm like, look, there's plenty of ways to survive. This is the underground. If you want to do that shit, go hang out with the Stones or U2 or something like that. I said, I don't go for that shit. So there's a lot of ego and greed, money, fucking greed, even down to fucking how much people are selling their merchandise for now. Not my concern as far as that goes. To each their own. People want to spend it. But things bother me. You still see, some bands just like, oh, don't touch our case of water back there. That's ours. And that's minimalistic type of shit, but you watch it or you see them like, oh, they come grab all the pizza, all right, here's something for the package tonight. And then someone grabs all the pizza and hides it or shoves all the Snickers in their leather jacket or whatever the fuck it is. And you're just like, wow. And by now I'm a 50-plus-year-old man. So I'm sitting there like, wow, I saw it in my 40s and my 30s too. But to see it now, it's just, I'm just like, but it doesn't deter me in any fucking way. I'm still going to go out there and scream into the microphone and, fucking run around like I'm on fire when it's hard.
I'm with you on the VIP thing, more in the sense that maybe it's because I've grown older as well. I'm 44 years old now. So I just don't really see the value in having a scribble on a vinyl or a CD or something like that. If it's, I've got a bunch of stuff that's signed, that's been signed for me over the years, but it's somebody has sent me a gift or they've, specifically written a message on there. That's cool. There's like a memory attached to that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with signing anything.
Yeah.
Come up to me and how much does it cost to get an autograph? I'm like, what it's going to cost you? And they're like, what? 10 seconds. A smell of mine just came off the stage breath to write it. And they're like, all right. Yeah. And I was like, literally. And I've had people literally hand me money like, well, it's a tip then. I'm like, no, I was like, here, take a fucking patch for that fucking $5 you just gave me. Fuck that, man. This is the underground. It's about the fucking music. Yeah, we need to have money to stay on the road to hotels for gas if the fucking tire blows out. Yeah, we understand that. But you don't need to fucking suck it out of every pore. Because I realize, being a fucking fan of music myself, and all the times I've driven fucking 700 fucking miles to something I wanted to see because it was only 6 states away, and I'm out there, with what I have to work with. I realize people seeing us on a Tuesday package that they've been at work till 6 o'clock and then they fight traffic. It's the worst time of day to be traveling to get over there. And if you're going to walk in and get fucking reamed for parking, reamed for overpriced tickets, most bands overcharge for their merchandise. And then you want somebody to fucking give them money to scribble something or, hey, here's this, it comes with a fucking limited, whatever toothpick or whatever the fuck it is, and I look at it, I'm like, this is fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid.
I remember
ways to make money, play some more shows, do what you got to do, but earn your keep, man.
Yeah. I remember queuing up when in my very early 20s, queuing up for hours to get Slayer to sign a record. And again, like 10, 15 years later, I ended up just selling it because I looked at it one day. I was like, the best part of getting that record signed was shaking Tom Araya's hand. Kerry King acted like a dick. Jeff Hanneman acted like a dick that day. but frankly, I don't want to remember them anymore. The best part was just getting to talk to Tom for 5 seconds, but actually the record, I have no attachment to it. I sold it. So that was my point. It's kind of like, I know some people attach a lot of value to it, but I just, maybe I'm just too old to give a shit about them.
And this is what I add to it. Most of these underground bands, they got day jobs too. They clean toilets. Like, I just call it clean toilets. Like, they're that. It's not Gene Simmons, who's you're not going to see, up close and personal. If you want to spend time with Mick Jagger, it's going to cost you a fucking $5-10 grand to stand in front of the motherfucker, but not Billy Bob from, Anal Massacre. You know what I'm saying? And you're just like, what the fuck? It's literally that stupid, brother. It's that fucking stupid. And you're just seeing it. And then you have this fucking clown that says, well, they got to make money too. And you're like, they didn't make it on the $45 long sleeve that I know making shit cost about $325 to make. Right there, they done got you for $42. I was like, if you want to buy something from me that's going to turn around, fine. And some people are like, well, it's my money. You're right. If you want to do it, do it. But if someone's going to ask me a question like you just asked me, I'm going to fucking say how I feel about it. Yeah. We'll never be like that. Man, we do anything for people, King Diamond's out here. A friend of mine met him, $800, and they wouldn't even let him stand on the same side of the table with him. He's like, we've got this magic lens. I'm sure you've seen the movie Jaws. When Roy Scheider's watching for sharks and that camera zooms up on his face, they use one of those cameras. So it looks like King Diamond's with him, but King Diamond's like out, in the other room eating a bologna sandwich at the same time. And I took him at King Diamond, $800. The guy was pissed. He's like, I didn't even get to shake his hand. I didn't even get to see him eye to eye. And I was like, well, that's what it's about. These fucking people now, like money, anything. I mean, he doesn't even have a thing where you can sit at a table and drink, grape wine with him for like $900.
That's fucking insane.
I mean, I'm just like, whatever. Hey, I don't know. Maybe the world's, I'm lost in this fucking world. But my story is I met Steve Harris at British Lion played here, the band he was helping out. I went to a little club. He's my idol. Maiden's my favorite band of all time. I think Steve Harris has never changed his look, never changed his attitude. He's a fucking great guy, whether you like the newer stuff or not. I do, but that's up to people nowadays on the music part of it. But anyway, went to see him play. It was January. It was fucking freezing cold out. They're playing a hot ass club. There's about 200 people mushed into a probably 150 person club. They play for 90 minutes. It's well after 1 o'clock in the morning when they're done. I watched that man who's worth $200 million, we'll say. I watched that man pull his own fucking amp cabinet off the stage. I watched him take his shit down, pack his own bass case up, not some guy he pays to do it. And then he came down and everybody said, he's been signing stuff, so stick around. And then somebody told me, well, they're not doing it tonight because they have to be in New York in 4 hours. And I'm like, I'm not fucking leaving until I see them leave. But most people had left. A lot of people had left. And this guy came over to me and goes, don't leave. He's definitely signing. He's just taking a shower, cooling off, and he's going to come out. So he comes out, and this guy gets up on the bar 10 of 2 in the morning on a Monday. I think it was a Monday or a Thursday. And he goes, Steve's going to sign whatever you got, 2 per person. It's free, no charge. Just keep the line moving. We do have a place. We do have somewhere we have to be in a couple hours. I went up there. I said to him, Steve, I love you, buddy. I've loved you since I was skinny. And he looked at me. He laughed. We talked about a little club, arena that he played on Number of the Beast when I saw him. And I walked away and I said, you know what? He didn't need that. And then someone said to me a couple weeks later, he's got $200 million. Of course he don't need it. And I'm like, he don't need to fucking give me the fucking time of day or anybody else. He could have easily just gotten his fucking bus, had beautiful women rub his feet, and gone to sleep. But you know what he did? He's still a punter at heart. Because I asked him, is it still love playing this? He goes, I wish we could do this with Maiden, but it's impossible. So I do it with British Lion because I miss the club atmosphere, which I still think is the best. I went and did Wacken 2000 and 2001 with both my bands, my other band being October 31. And we played to like 20,000 people for one of them, 10 or so on the other. It wasn't the same as playing that bar when the people are right there in your shit. I remember having to I had some T-shirts. I threw them out. They were so far away. It took me to throw it as far as I could for a security guard to catch it, to throw it to the next security guard, and him to hand it to somebody in the front row. So there's that.
I was going to ask you, how old were you when you saw Kiss for the first time?
I was 11. It was the day after my birthday, July 7th. My birthday is the 6th, 1979. That was my first concert.
That must have blown your mind. 11 years old seeing Kiss and in that era as well.
It was Dynasty. I mean, they call it the disco era. I love the record. It was still those four. As a kid, I couldn't tell that Peter Criss was on his way out, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, they were my messiah then.
Mm. And you're talking about like paying $800 or whatever to just hang out with somebody. Is there anybody that you would pay money to sit down and have lunch with? Like you see these things where you can like win at an auction. You can win a lunch date with somebody. Like if you had unlimited cash, would you pay to sit down with anybody?
Well, then you're getting into like fantasy world, so to speak. It's different. Again, now we're talking like people you can't just see on the street or aren't going to call like later tonight, like, hey man, I went home and my air conditioning wasn't working. Let me call the guy from the band that was VIPing earlier. And then he comes by and he's like, yeah, all right, let me write up an invoice. It's not those kind of show. I mean, my idol, Steve, I would love to sit down with Steve Harris or Tony Iommi or someone like that in the music world, or like I did get to meet when I was a kid, my crush. I loved the Charlie's Angels when I was a kid, and I loved Cheryl Ladd. I went to this convention, and my wife loves Tony Danza, and Tony Danza was there. So I was like, Tony Danza for you, Cheryl Ladd for me. We'll have it's what we grew up with loving. Tony Danza, she said, looked like a bag of shit. She was disappointed, and it was like 11:30, and Cheryl wasn't going to be there till like 2:30. So she's like, we really got to wait this out 3 hours for Cheryl Ladd. And I was like, goddamn right we do.
Hell yeah.
But here's the best part. So I remember it plain as day. It was in a big hotel. It was like a horror convention with a lot of that. But nowadays they have like, you go to a horror convention to meet like, people that aren't in horror. You go there and you meet Anne Margaret. She's done her horror, of course, but blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I look over and I go, oh my God, it's Cheryl Ladd. And she goes, yeah, I am Cheryl Ladd. And I'm like, wow, we want to meet you at 2:30 in this, She's like, you can meet me now. She sits down with me. She starts talking. I tell her, I'm like showing her my phone. I'm like, I got a Charlie's Angels pinball machine in my fucking house. And I've even got a Cheryl Ladd doll from when I was a kid. She's probably like, this fucking weirdo.
She's like, she's pressing the panic button underneath the desk.
Yeah. Security. She was 67 years old when I met her. She was gorgeous. And I looked at her and I said, I know you've heard this from plenty of people along the way. I had the biggest crush. You were my first crush on TV. I loved you when I was 9 years old, and I still love you now. And I was talking about movies, lesser known movies. She was like, wow, you have kept up on my career. I'm like, I wish you well. I was like, you're a good soul on this earth. She gave me 3 pictures. She gave me a hug, and I already had a signed photo from her. I told her, she's like, you want to get a photo? A sign? And I was like, I already have one. I'm in your fan club. And it was great, but I would have loved to. I mean, that was enough for me with that. But I mean, we could sit here. I mean, I'd love if someone dead or alive. I'd love to have spent time talking to Wendy O. Williams or Houdini. I love Harry Houdini. He was the first one to call the posers out.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who I've actually never thought about who I would pay money to sit down with. I think maybe Daniel Day-Lewis.
Okay.
I'm obsessed with There Will Be Blood. I mean, I'm genuinely obsessed with that movie. So, and I just find him as an actor, as an artist, I just find him fascinating. Like you hear some of the stories.
He's a hell of an actor for sure.
Well, in Gangs of New York, for example, the thing that he does where he taps the knife on his supposedly glass eye. Yeah. You know that he actually put like a glass contact lens in there, and he forced himself to keep his eye open so that he could do the knife tapping.
I didn't know that.
Natural instinct for you to blink. Yeah, it's just crazy shit like that. Like he's I mean, obviously not acting anymore, but he's this obsessive artist. And I generally find anybody that takes things to that far of an extreme in whatever it is they're doing, no matter what it is, I just find it interesting. And then my other big one, Stone Cold. If I could, I would give my left nut to sit down to Stone Cold.
Being a big guy and all this through the years with the wrestlers, man, people all the time, they come up to me. I've had people ask me if I was Mick Foley when I had the facial, all the. I mean, I go through. I remember one time me and another big guy were going through, and they're like, "What are you guys going to the? Are you going to the WrestleMania right now? Who are you? Are you one guy? Are you the Undertaker? Are you Raven? All this shit." And they were like, "You should have been one." And I won't even lie to you, man. Some of these lower wrestling things, they've come to me while we're playing shows going, you're very agile for a big man. You're 300 pounds plus. Oh, you got a lot of character. We could make a great role for you, man, if you're ever interested. And a friend of mine was there. He had done it, some lower wrestling. He's like, you'll lose your back at 6 months, man. They'll steroid you up and you'll be fucked. So yeah,
I was just about to say, if you went to hang out at the bingo hall in Philadelphia, you might have had Paul Heyman coming up to you and saying, to take a chair to the skull. I would. So that's another person. If you're talking about dead people, I would have loved to have sat down with New Jack, but just with a fucking getaway car already on standby in case he flies off the handle.
I love it. Yeah, no, but you and me are both naming people that that wouldn't come over and fix our toilet. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely
it's not
not.
Stu the janitor. We're talking about people that are out of our realm of everyday life, and that's what I'm getting at. It's not that you can't pay it or anything. And I'll even give King Diamond to a degree. He is more hidden and bigger and on the upper side of things, but he's still not $800. It's like, hey, if you're one of the more popular ones, you could make your money quicker and more by keeping it fair for everybody. But these people get greedy, and greed is just a bad thing in the world. I personally feel greed is the real devil of the world.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And also, actually, just as a final comment on that, in the dynamic of paying somebody to spend time with them, there's always that there's that subservience that creeps in. You can never have, I don't personally think you can actually have a natural conversation with somebody. Like before we started recording, and I was saying to you, the approach I take with this podcast is it kind of needs to be like two dudes who sit down in a bar and start talking shit, and they realize they've got a bunch of things in common. What I used to find really challenging about this podcast when I first started doing it is I had to chase a lot more for guests to have on the show, and the guys that you had to really chase, or you kind of needed to, I never begged, but the ones that you had to ask a couple of times, like, hey, is everything okay? You were the conversation just never flowed like a conversation flows nowadays. Like nowadays, podcast has been around long enough. It's got big enough audience that I don't really have to do that anymore. And so therefore, I think the quality of the episodes have gotten a lot better because the conversation just flows naturally now.
This is definitely the way I like to do it. You and me don't know each other, but we know each other a lot more in the last how long we've been on the thing. A lot more than just, his name's Kingsley,
Yeah. No, 100%. Now, we talk about like some of the prima donna behavior of nowadays. I was going to ask you when Columbia started signing up death metal bands and extreme metal bands, when that kind of first wave of, I guess the right phrase would be commercial opportunity. When that came up in the early 90s, what did you think of that?
I knew it was going to fail because I was thinking, even if these bands mellow out somewhat or, cut the edge, the people they had that liked them aren't going to like them no more. The fucking, the realists, so to speak. And then the people they're going to try to go for didn't want to hear Carcass turn into what they became. You got a new crowd for somewhat. And then a lot of people were like, they're done, because that's kind of the underground way. You say you're in your 40s. I mean, back in the days, it's like Metallica was always like, oh yeah, when they did Ride the Lightning, we didn't want to be the fastest band anymore. We got away from it, blah, blah, blah. I felt from the get-go were kind of contrived. And how it went down. When these bands in the 90s that went to Columbia and basically the earache bands were picked up.
Yeah.
And then it's like they were hoping to get on these bigger things and we can make real rock star money, so to speak. It just didn't happen. And I never thought it would. I was just like, it's a one album, two tops, and these bands are back fishing again. And it was. None of them busted through. They may have got on Headbangers Ball or something MTV, and Morbid Angel, I guess, jumped on a Motorhead Black Sabbath thing, but they were still the opening band and were reduced to playing 25-minute sets and things. So it wasn't like they became, superstars. So for me, it was what it was. I mean, it didn't bother me one way or the other. I guess it was just a business decision on those bands. What bothered me more was watching when the grunge thing took off and all of a sudden all the bands were sad. They were like, oh, we're like that too. We think the world's miserable. We like to stare at our shoes, and just that kind of shit went down.
Yeah.
I love Kiss. When Kiss came out with Carnival of Souls, and you're looking and they're like, I wish it would rain. You know, you're like, come on, man. You motherfuckers have you got anything you want on the planet's paid for. Women by the score. Fucking houses on the hills, pools in the summer, ski slopes in the winter, anywhere you want to be. And you're going to sit here now because Smashing Pumpkins are fucking hip. And I wish it would rain or hate. And you're like, fuck you. Fuck you, Kiss. And I love Kiss, but come on. A fucking spade's a spade, my friend.
Yeah.
I hated that more because a lot of bands went that way. They went real dirge and shit.
There were a lot of bands that went very wayward there. One of the things I've always loved about Testament is that they were absolutely dead set against that. Of those thrash bands from the 80s, like Testament just got harder and harder. I mean, I'm still a big fan of Demonic. I fucking love The Gathering as well. I love Low also.
I don't know what you know me, but I hate Testament.
You don't like Testament?
I hate.
I was going to ask you, did you ever come around to Metallica, or is that
no,
also
hell no? I can't, man. And it's great. I've been married to my wife for 10 years. She's like, I think they eat shit too.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I've never been a Bay Area guy. The thing with Metallica I explained earlier, I just thought they weren't very good at it. I didn't think they were heavy. I was like, when I heard it, people were like, this is the greatest thing ever. I was like, Venom blows this fucking way, man. I don't need to go to this. It just wasn't my thing. Gave Megadeth a chance because he was saying back then, our album's going to be what Metallica should have been. So I was expecting something crazy, faster, and wilder. And I thought it was worse. It was the first record I ever took back to the store. And I heard him sing. I was like, dogs were dying in the streets, man. And so the Bay Area, to me, I always thought personally that it was pretty boys with rich pretty boys with nice guitars. And I play it, and sure, you'll get a Sadist or a Sentinel Beast or something will come out of that somewhere. And those were the bands for me. But I just thought a lot, like I remember getting the Legacy demo before it was even Testament. And we were just at Alone in the Dark, and I just didn't go for it. Even with him wearing the Voivod shirt, which is one of my favorite bands in the Over the Wall video, it just didn't work for me. We actually had a run. I actually had a run in with Chuck Billy one time too. We were playing a festival together, and I was backstage trying to go piss. And this guy goes, you can't go in there. That's Chuck Billy's toilet. And I'm like, I got to piss, man. He's like, no, that's Chuck Billy's. And Chuck Billy's like, nope, you can't go in there, man. You can't do it. And I'm like, dude, I got to piss. I'm going to piss. I said to him, when I'm done, you can go sit on the toilet and write the New Testament. He looked at me like, whatever. So when we went and played the Pound, which is where their big club in San Francisco, I wore a Testament Suck shirt on stage. And you don't know how many people told me that's the greatest shirt ever, dude. Those guys are pricks. He thought they were pricks. A couple people. I'm sure there was another half that thought they were great individuals. But not to lie to you or anything, it's just I am not a Bay Area thrash guy. I much prefer the German. I love me some early Creator and Violent Force and early Sodom like that. But I never knock anybody. I always say, love what you love, man, to each their own. That's why we all get our own names, to be our own person. 100%.
Now, you mentioned Sabbath earlier as well. And again, this is out of curiosity as much as anything else. Dio or Ozzy?
My favorite albums by Sabbath are Dio. Mob Rules is my favorite album. I love the Ozzy records, minus 13, which is awful. It's not even allowed within 3 blocks of my house. I have borders, like a security alarm will go off if someone tries to bring that in here. But I love it all. I mean, Mob Rules is my favorite, but I have a big heart for Never Say Die, which is one, considered the worst Ozzy album. I love that record. I've loved Sabbath. Here's a quick Sabbath story for you. So when I was a kid, me and my buddy used to always go to our friend's house and try to look through his brother's tapes or his sister's tapes. And he had a brother too. So we would go over and I remember going to my friend Andy's house and we discovered Kansas, or we discovered Jethro Tull or Rush or bands like that. He was really into that, progressive type stuff. And we're singing Palmer Genesis. So my friend Dan, the one that used to do it with me, we went to his brother's collection one day, and we're pulling out America, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and hippie rock, sort of, so to speak. And Black Sabbath, Paranoid was in there. And I put it on, and I said, this sucks. This is fucking hippie shit. Fuck off. It was Planet Caravan. Of all songs, it's Planet Caravan, which is whatever it is. So 2 years later, it's 1981. And we're trying to go see AC/DC for Those About to Rock. My buddy Marcel, the guy that was going to be our drummer, his dad said, I'll go get you guys tickets for Those About to Rock. We're like, oh, yeah, we're going to see AC/DC. Yeah. He comes back. There was nothing left but nosebleeds and obstructed view. He said, I got you tickets to something you're going to love. And I said, what? He goes, Black Sabbath. I said, what? Hey, I looked at Marcel. I said, they suck. Fucking Black Sabbath sucks. And he's like, oh, yeah, they're heavy as shit. And, you guys are all into this shit, blah, 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 blah. I left it alone. I went home, told my mom. She's like, did you get your AC/DC? Nope, this motherfucker bought Black Sabbath. We're fucked. But at the same time, there's this song on the radio all the time, which is blowing my fucking mind. And I'm like, who the fuck is this? I keep missing the announcement. One day, there it is. And then they go, that was Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. And
yeah.
Oh, my God, that's Black Sabbath? Whoa, was that the wrong tape? Dan, bring that tape out. No, that's it. So I said, well, I don't know. Did he record over it? We put the tape in. We started hearing War Pigs and shit, and I'm digging it. So I went out and bought, at the time, the new record was Mob Rules. So I bought the record, and then December 3rd was the show, 1981. And this was the night I sold my soul to heavy metal. They came out. I remember it like it was yesterday. The opening bands were Alvin Lee of 10 Years After and Mick Taylor, who played with the Rolling Stones. They were just a blues jam band. They got on, they got off. Michael Schenker Group was playing on the PA. Marcel smoked the joint. He was into it at 12, 13. I wasn't into weed just yet. It said, ladies and gentlemen, Black Sabbath. They came out, Neon Nights, the fucking Mob Rules thing behind them. They're jamming Children of the Sea, Voodoo, all the coolest fucking songs. He's doing NIB, Black Sabbath. They get to Heaven and Hell. He breaks it down with a little plotting bass. And then the part comes where I'm going to burn in hell with all of you. And they had a cross that came to the front, and all this fire came up from whatever pods. And I looked, and it hit me. The heat hit my chest. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm doing with my life. I'm playing heavy fucking metal for the rest of my days on Earth. And that was my fucking, I see God moment, I guess.
Yeah.
So Sabbath means a fucking lot to me.
Yeah. I discovered Sabbath. The first Sabbath album I ever heard was Paranoid, but the first Sabbath records that really, really spoke to me, grabbed me, were Heaven and Hell and Dehumanizer. I think Dehumanizer to me is incredible. I think it's some of Ronnie James Dio's best work. And then Heaven and Hell. I mean, all 8 tracks are phenomenal.
Oh, I'm a freak for the Underdog on that record. My favorite tune on that record is Wishing Well. I love Wishing Well. That fucking chorus. It should have been the next single. They should have done it as a follow-up single. But yeah, I got a quick Dehumanizer tour. We saw them at Prong Open. We saw them in Washington, D.C. And they went to do the intro for the wah, wah, wah.
Yeah.
He had the little wah-wah going. I yelled as loud as I can yell. And I'm 56 now, and I'm probably pretty loud to you doing this podcast. I went, Tony Iommi is God! He stopped playing. He looked at me, because I was 8th row on the floor. He looked at me, gave me the horns, and then went back to wah, 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 wah. And I fucking lost. I was like, Tony Iommi just stopped the show and addressed me with his finger. It was so cool. And then I saw them. They came back for Cross. I'm a Tony Martin guy too. I was there on Headless Cross, and we went and saw Cross Purposes. That's when Morbid Angel opened with Motorhead. And Tony Iommi came right over to me. I was front and center. I was up there with the general admission, and he handed me a guitar pick right in my fucking hand. I was like, wow. So I had a couple Tony Iommi moments, but I've never met the man, and I'd give him money to sit down and, as I call it, pet his mustache. He's my favorite guitar player, man. I don't like 13, and I don't really like his solo. I love 7 Star, but that's supposed to be a solo project. But I didn't really care when he kind of did shit with all the other singers and shit. But other than that, I mean, he's the man.
I would say my taste, like my favorite Sabbath songs are probably a little bit more pedestrian. Children of the Sea, definitely.
It's a great one.
And then Too Late on Dehumanizer. I think
I love Too Late.
To me is Dio's most incredible. The crowning moment of an astonishing career, but his voice on that song.
I love Too Late. I think my favorite song on Dehumanizer for me is Computer God. I love that middle
brilliant
part
as well.
But there's no bad track on there, my friend.
Now, I think about when I discovered Deceased, and the first time that I ever heard you guys was when I got hold of a copy of Death is Just the Beginning 3, which that was kind of one of the big gateways that got us into stuff. And I was looking before I spoke to you at who was on that compilation with you. It's fucking mind-blowing, actually. Benediction, Dismember, Pungent Stench. You guys are sandwiched between Pungent Stench and Mind Rot. Right after that, you got Sinister. And the list just goes on. Bloodduster, Brutality, Macabre, Incantation, Mortician, Hypocrisy. I mean, fucking hell. You guys, like, after the whole grunge thing blew over and death metal started to become more technical and much more like, I felt like there was a period of time where there was this fixation on technicality, and then around sort of the early to mid 2000s, I think it started to move back towards more songwriting. People started getting back to, okay, let's make records where the songs sound distinct from each other. And I kind of feel like it's been on a bit of an upward trajectory ever since, really. There's been more good bands, like newer bands coming out that are good. And a lot of the older bands have gone back to doing some really good work. But again, from your perspective, how did the scene kind of develop and grow post grunge?
Well, I always say grunge separated the posers from the realists. It basically showed people, like, if the boat is sinking, you'll see who will go run for the sidecar. And we kind of just, as I said earlier, we just stayed doing what we do. We put on the sticker for Fearless, which 97, a little bit later, but we just put on a sticker, same logo, same everything, same death metal from the grave. And actually, it's supposed to have said, and no Pantera beards on it. That's what it was supposed to say, because that was very popular. And Relapse took it off. They were like, you can't put that on there. They started censoring us, which led 5 years later to us walking, because that became like we were hanging out with our grandmother all the time. But we just kept doing what we do. It got bad. Shows were small. It was even like Iron Maiden and stuff like that. Iron Maiden was playing Hammerjacks, which is a bar that holds like 1,500 people. They were they couldn't do the arenas and things, but we did not care at all. We went in there and we gave it our all, whether it was 8 people or 800 or 8,000. We always gave it our all. We just kept on plodding through. Supernatural Addiction by 2000. I mean, we were in full on, like, the spirit of heavy metal. We were tired of hearing people say heavy metal's a bad name. I remember seeing Lars Ulrich on Howard Stern show. We were never a metal band. He says, we were never a metal band. And Howard Stern goes, how the fuck can you say that when you got metal in the name of your fucking band? And his girlfriend, wife, whatever she was, she goes, he hates when people call them heavy metal. And
I do remember that very well. And
Rob Halford, same thing. Mr. Copyrighted metal god. Now he walked. It was industrial. I mean, it got bad. I mean, people got discouraged. They got fucking disheveled in the mind, whatever the hell you want to call it. But we didn't. We're metalheads. It doesn't matter what year it is. You can't tell you at the beginning of this conversation, we do what we want to do. We don't care what's popular. We've never set out to be the Hit Parader magazine centerfold of the month. We do it because we love it. If anybody else enjoys it, that's a bonus. If the Children of the Morgue coming out now, if nobody likes it, oh well, we love it. We're fucking proud as shit as writers of it and creators. We'll be dead one day, and the epitaph, that'll stay on the earth, whether people use it to hold up the leg of their couch or they sit there and play it at fucking full volume. It's still on the earth. And so when these bands were doing that, I just kind of laughed. I just kind of laughed and I watched them. I watched these bands like all of a sudden write these fucking records that were sad, like, a la Kiss, which is not in the death metal thing. But when it came through there and it kind of rose back, I remember one of the funniest things to me, and I really went off on them, was Marcus, what's his name, Steiger from Nuclear Blast. He sent a message one time saying, get rid of get rid of the heavy metal angle of your band. Heavy metal is fucking dead. Nobody cares about heavy metal anymore. And I wrote back, I fucking care about it. Fuck off. Never heard from the man again. Never heard from the man again. And we weren't on it. Nuclear Blast America was associated with Relapse for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still are, but whatever. I don't even know if they're around. I know Nuclear Blast is. But not 2, 1, 3 years later, Hammerfall, Manowar, Halloween, fucking all these new bands, Conception, all these bands line up. They're all on Nuclear Blast. And I'm like, Look at this motherfucker backpedaling like shit because heavy metal wasn't a bad word anymore. You know, Anthrax, I remember when they stopped calling themselves heavy metal and they were a rock band. We're a rock band. Fuck you, soldiers of metal, my ass. Fuck these people. You watch them, and that's me. As I said earlier, my head is full on into everything. Music is my life, and I pay attention. And you know, I don't forget. I don't forget. I mean, people may make mistakes, and that's fine. But when it's a fucking pattern for so long, you're just like, you know what? You're full of shit. You're just full of fucking shit. But I was happy to see the death metal movement come, you know, get back strong again and play shows again, and festivals start to pop up, and bands, you know, getting inspired again. There was also a thing you need to think about too during this is a lot of these bands were the same age. There was a time when a lot of people had their kids, they got married. Where am I going to? How can I do this but still own a house or rent a house? So there was that time too. And some of the bands went away, and then they come back, like they break up, and then all of a sudden Keep It True has them back, and you're like, you want to give them to say, hey, you know, it's good to have you back. But then sometimes you're like, they're only doing it for a quick buck and a quick, as I call it, a lick of the ass. And they do a new record, and it's horrible. We use Witchfinder General as the example. Come back, perfect discography. They come back, they put out the worst turd that anybody's ever shit from an orifice ever. So, you know, and that's just me being me. I mean, I like to be a realist. What I see and what I do is what is out there. And then when we started playing, like seeing our buddies in Incantation going around the world, or Immolation taking off and doing great. I'm proud. I'm happy as shit for those bands, and proud. Deceased has got to do a lot more over the last 15 years than we've done, you know, going early on. I mean, that was a condition early on. Me and Les could go, but Mark and Mike, we got to come back to jobs, my friend. We don't have, you know, we're not living with our moms like you guys are, you know. And I said, I get it. So it was what it was with that. The death metal bands were great. We did so many shows. The bands you were just mentioning off that comp. I remember Benediction show. We played a show with them in DC. Was the best, man. Got drunk as shit, and all night they just like kept looking at my ear. I'm like, what are you looking at my fucking ear for? They're like, you've got some kind of you've got something in there. It's something like I don't know. And I said, well, what are you talking about, man? He goes, nah, somebody must have like put like some kind of like bionics in your ear, man, because you know everything about heavy metal. And I'm like, man, you're fucking drunk, dude. They were great. I miss those guys. That was one of the funnest times. Bolt Thrower was supposed to play. They threw some kind of rockstar trip, did not play, but Benediction played, and us. And man, that was one of my favorite hangouts ever, man.
Just touching on Immolation, that band just blows me away. I've been a fan of theirs since way back when, like, they were amongst the first death metal bands that I started getting into, like the first wave of bands I discovered. It was a year and after that I heard the first time. But when Acts of God came out 2 years ago, I couldn't believe that a band that have been together for as long as they've been could still sound like they are. I mean, they sound like this is their debut and they really want to impress people. Yeah, I mean, that's how fucking hungry that record sounds.
Well, yeah, I used to talk with, before Ross or Bob, I used to talk with Neil Boback, who was the drummer real early when they were still called Rigor Mortis, which is still, for me, is still my favorite Immolation stuff is the Rigor Mortis stuff, which people are like, huh? But that's whatever. And we all became friends. And how we became friends was this, where I live now, Pennsylvania, but over in another part of Pennsylvania called Pittsburgh. We all went there, and it was a big festival, and it was us, Revenant, Ripping Corpse, Immolation, and a band called Primeval. And we went and did this show, and it was at a roller skating rink. It was at a place called Veilburner, and there was like 30 people there. Nowadays, it would be like this huge deal, but nobody gave a shit then. So back then, you know, Wild Man King, we all were hanging out at the hotel afterwards, and I said, look at that sit-down Mrs. Pac-Man machine. I'm stealing that motherfucker. And I opened up the window to the hotel on the second floor, and I dipped it out down into the grass, $2,000, $3,000 thing. And they all went and, you know, away because they were like, this motherfucker's crazy as shit. This dude's crazy. Then I was like, see that microwave? I can use that too. Threw the microwave out of the kitchen in there. And they were just like, you're fucking crazy. So we were all friends. And they went and did their stuff, and we did ours. And we didn't see each other, but here and there. I remember one time driving the turnpike, stopping for something to drink, and seeing Ross at the candy machine. But we just played Mexico, and they played too. And we got together with each other, and we talked for the whole day. we're just laughing and laughing. And they're just like, dude, you're fucking wild. And I was just like, dude, I'm proud to show you guys that they brought in Alex from Goraphobia. Part of it too. They're all dear friends. They're all great guys, and they're real metal. They didn't go grunge. They didn't start looking at their shoes when fucking Nirvana was cool, and that meant the world to me, man. And like I said, I just love seeing the good guys succeed too, man.
Well, I would also add to that and say, I was so I've got a thing that I do on my podcast where I'll go on Metal Storm and I'll read the news headlines and stuff, and I'll listen to songs as they come up and tell people what I think. So it's kind of like React videos, but not quite. I'm just bullshitting. I'm just reading the news and saying what I think, and if I hear a song, listen to it, and I'll tell them if I like it or not. When I heard the first single that you guys put out of Children of the Morgue, which is I think Children of the Morgue. My balls dropped. It's fucking brilliant. And and again, it comes back to, bringing us full circle to the beginning of the conversation. 40 years in, and you're putting out a record that is this creative and sounds this inspired. I almost feel redundant asking you this question because I've gotten the energy off of you, for the last hour and 15 minutes. But like, what is it that keeps you going and that keeps you so excited and so passionate about doing what it is that you do?
It's that can't describe heavy metal passion in the fucking heart. I mean, I've had a stroke in fucking when I was 36. I've had blood clots that almost killed me. Fucking family members dropped dead. Fucking all kinds of shit. You just keep going, man. Life doesn't give a fuck. You keep going. And if truthfully, after all we've been through, we've had Mark step down. We had Mike step down from playing live for 2 decades now, because jobs and things like that and just personal stuff. I can't give it up. I thought about it for a long time when in 2005, we did As the Weird Travel On. And then right after that, Mike said, I'm not going to play live anymore. I'm getting a government job. And I can say this now. Mike went on to work for the CIA. He was an undercover agent for almost 20 years.
Jesus.
Okay. Now people don't know that, but that's what it was. He's retired now, so he's off the clock. But he couldn't travel with us anymore. He was under aliases and stuff, and it got much. He ended up moving to Jordan to work for them. He fought ISIS. He was fighting ISIS during Ghostly White. He was fighting fucking ISIS. So it's like, okay, what do I do? Do we not have the band anymore? Because I told Mike, you're still in the band. You're just not playing live. I'll get somebody to play live. And then when that was done, Mark had a bad drug problem. He'll be the first to tell you. He went real bad. He lost his way. Me and him did not speak for almost 10 years. And not because we hated each other, but it was just he needed to find himself and get on with his life. And he did. And I'm proud as shit of him, just like he was when I quit when I was 19. And we kept going. And then Les, our bass player, I'm moving to Texas, man. I got a girl. I'm going to marry her and live there. Now, after that happens, am I supposed to stop? Am I supposed to say, I can't do this no more because it's not perfect for them anymore? I thought this hard and long. I said, whatever lineup comes out, whoever the hell helps me out and does this thing moving forward, because Mike and Les were still part of it, on record, just not live so much, because Les was still wanted to play, but he lived in Texas, which was like 44 hours from us. So basically, I just said, no, I'm going to go on with this. And I, thick and thin, man. Thick and thin. I'd come from this. I just had a stroke in 2004. It was 2006, 7. And I was just like, I'm not stopping. And here it is, 2024. I'm 56. I'm married. It's me and my wife. We have a little pet hamster. That's all that's in this house. As long as there's air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter, and my wife is happy, and my son, who's 34 and I have a grandson now, so I'm a grandpa. As long as they're healthy and happy, I'm happy. I don't need stuff. I don't collect cars. I don't collect that shit. The only thing I collect is like horror movies and nostalgic shit. You can see behind me, flip it around a little bit. My Kiss, my Burn Offerings, the shit I grew up with. I got a Kiss pinball machine over here. I had to sell the Charlie's Angels. The fucking paint came off. Look, they had the fucking measles. But it's that, my friend. It's the same with everybody. Mike has never stopped writing. I mean, all that time when we did Ghostly White, I saw Mike 4 times. I think it was in 2017. I saw Mike 4 times for 2 weeks. He was in Jordan the rest of the year. Like 10 and a half months he was in Jordan. But when he came back, we got together, we wrote, and we did what we did because that's what we do. And I waited for him for the music because it wasn't the same without my guy helping me out. You know, we were a team, and Shane has become the third head to the monster when we do this stuff. And it just feels right, man. I mean, it's my drug of choice. You know what I'm saying? It's kept me going. If I didn't choose when I was 19, going back to that, what I told you earlier, my mom said, you either get on living or you fucking, fall where you are. I basically said, fuck drugs, fuck that shit. Let's do music. It's kept me alive. It's kept me, through thick and thin. I've never looked back. I'm just a music freak in general. But I think that, it's still got that, we still got that, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess that teen angst is still in there somewhere. That crazy spirit. I mean, I'm still loud and wild. I don't know if that's this is what a 56-year-old man usually is like when you interview them. But I mean, I'm just animated, and the other guys feed off my energy. I feed off of what they're strong at, and together we're a fucking team, and we're death metal from the grave, and we don't give a shit what's in or what's out, man. We don't care. We'll do another record. We'll play shows. We'll say hi to our friends. We don't have fans. I hate the word fans. We're all in this together, whether you're playing the music or selling the fucking hot dog at the fucking food bar. We're all in this together. There's no higher than thou shit to me. We're all in this together. So we'll go out and see our friends. We got shows coming up. We're going to love to see friends. Some of them now have children or grandchildren or are married or divorced or have had a negative. Maybe someone's passed away. You want to see them all. You want to, we're friends. That's what it's about. That's the underground to me. It's not, hey, man, how much money you got in your pocket? Because I want to say you this and this and this and this and this. And then I'll throw in a nice to see you just so you'll throw another 20 out there. What a nice guy. Because I've seen a lot of what a nice guys that are fucking pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Trey Osgood. One more time for Trey Osgood for 10 seconds. Oh, he was cool as shit to me. Me and him smoked the joint together. He was cool as shit. Yeah, you're smoking your fucking marijuana.
Yeah.
Of course it's nice to you. You got to, blah, blah, blah.
What's your, if you don't mind me asking, what's your health like right now? Are you okay?
I'm good. I'm a 320-pound man. Right before you and me talked, it just came off my fucking 2.5. I walk 2.5 miles every fucking day. I'm ready to do these fucking shows. I think the album speaks for itself vocally where I am. I'm fine. Going back to what happened to me, 2002, I basically got a blood clot in my leg. My mother passed away on a whim. That time, I thought I was playing a lot of basketball back then. I'm a jock boy at heart too. I play a lot of sports. I love sports. My legs blew up. Didn't know anything about what a DVT was then, deep venous thrombosis. Went up into my lung, almost killed me in my right lung. Got it just in time. Got put on blood thinners for 6 months in 2002. 2 years later, I went to bed. I woke up. I was fucked up. Didn't know what was wrong. I was emailing with some girl online. She's like, "You're typing funny. What's wrong? Are you, I said, "I don't know." And I said, maybe I need to go back to sleep. Maybe I'm overtired. I got up again. My son came home from school. My face was drooping. It was the day the Dawn of the Dead remake had come out. I was like, let's go see Dawn of the Dead. My stepfather had come over, his friend. They're like, "Man, you're acting funny. You all right?" We went down to 7-Eleven. They wanted to get a paper. I dropped my wallet. I dropped the paper. I was bumping into walls. And they're like, "You need to go to the hospital. Something's wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm fine." Ended up going to sleep, waking up Saturday morning. My son's mother outside her apartment. And she said, "What the hell's wrong with you?" I said, "I don't know." And she's like, "You're acting like you're drunk or something." And she goes, "What's our cat's name?" I was like, "I don't know." She's like, "What's your middle name?" I'm like, "I don't fucking know." She goes, "We're going to the hospital." So we went to the hospital, same hospital I went to at the lung 2 years prior, got the same blood doctor, everything. They said, "You either had a brain aneurysm or a stroke." Turns out I had a stroke. On my right side, I'm left-handed, so my whole physicalness on my left side is affected. Memory would have been the left side. That's why I remember everything I'm telling you now. Doctor actually went into tears, said, "I should have left you on blood thinner. I didn't know what it was. We're going to have to look desperately to see what caused this." They had a big medical staff from Maryland came up, John Hopkins, and studied me for a week. Couldn't figure out anything. Could not find out why the hell I had a stroke. Didn't have blood pressure issues. Even being a big guy, did not have blood diabetes, nothing like that. So 6 years later, 2010, he put it down as idiopathic, said, "You're on blood thinners for the rest of your life." 6 years later, we're on tour. We're out in Las Vegas. It's hot as balls. It's 125 degrees and dry heat. Show's over. I started feeling like, whoa, man, my heart's beating funny. It's like a fish out of water. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Now it's the middle of the night. We just played our show. We're driving to Arizona. We get to the hotel. I tell my guys, man, is your heart supposed to beat like this? And they're like, man, that's weird. And I was like, is that all right? They're like, yeah, you're just overtired. Go to sleep. You'll be fine. I'm like, nah, man, it's weird. So the last one awake, I asked him, and I said, can you? And he said, I don't see nothing, man. I'm going to sleep. So they all fell asleep. And I went to the front counter of the hotel and said, can you call an ambulance over here? No sirens. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Don't wake anybody up. Sure. They bring the fire department. Sirens blazing. Ding, 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 ding. And fuck. And she's looking at me probably like, this dude's high on something. Because I had played a show and hair was all kooky.
Yeah.
Greasy and whatever. Fireman takes my EKG on my heart. He says, you got an irregular heartbeat. Let's take you to the hospital. And he's like, let's rush him there. Let's get him there. And I start freaking out because of what they're saying. You got a will and testament? Or are you married? Should we call your wife? Blah, 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 blah. Whoa, we get in there and the man tells me, anybody ever tell you have AF fibrillation? I said, no. Well, you do. Have you ever had a stroke? Yes, I have. Well, let me tell you, that's why you had it. You didn't know that? They didn't know that 6 years? No idea. He said, we'd like to keep you here for 2 days, study you. Let's get you back to, on medicine to help this. I said, can't do it, man. Got to go. Got a show tonight, man. Got to go. Give me something in a bottle that I can take. Is this going to kill me? It could. If you don't take care of yourself, what do I got to do? You just got to keep an eye on yourself, man. Fucking if you're in it, just don't overexert yourself. I said, all right, let's go. Gave me some medicine. Went and played the show. 3 days later, got to Portland. And a doctor friend saw me and told me really more about AFib. And after that, came back to here, and I realized I've had AFib. So that's kind of why I had a stroke. And some people are like, oh, man, no, you're crazy. I remember when you drank a quart of motor oil, that's probably what caused it and all this shit, which I did drink a quart of motor oil, but that was like 20 years prior, unless it's a delayed reaction. But I feel good, man. I mean, all of us guys, when Mike's in the room and Mark's in the room, I'm the third youngest guy in the band. When they're not around, I'm the old guy. But my back is sore. My legs are a little sore, but I mean, nothing that any other 56-year-old fucker that's done a lot of shit too. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you are, but if you were here now, we could go for a race, man.
Well, I'll take you up on that when hopefully you guys make it out to Europe, or actually if I go to the US at some point.
I'll tell you this, that you touched on. We're talking to some people now about next year's our 40th anniversary, I guess we call it that because of the 5. But we're going to do something here in December, just a small run. We're going to do a little tour, which I can't say more about yet, in March of next year, 2025. And then we're going to do another run in May. But we're looking at like August, trying to hit a lot of Europe. I guess it's the festival times and all that stuff, and do that. We have not been over since 2014, and we hit like Holland and the Netherlands, and I think we were in Denmark and Belgium, and we went to Prague and a couple shows in Germany. But we've had some people interested in bringing us to Greece and Italy and UK and everything else. So maybe you can meet us, or maybe we'll end up playing. Maybe awesome. We can play that room you're in right now, back behind you.
that will work too. Dude, thank you so much for your time. I've had a bunch of people, probably for the better part of 18 months, tell me, you have to get King Fowley on. He'd be absolutely awesome. You guys would have a great time. They were not wrong. This is a fantastic conversation. So
you've been a great guy, man. And I wish you well. And I want to say I'm going to go back and go into the Necrosphere. I'm going to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll check it out.
How long have you been doing
it? Since 2019 or 20. Actually, 20. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Is it 2019 or 2018? I can't remember. But it's about 5 years.
Okay, yeah. When a guy like me when my motto is speed, then I got to catch up. I'm going to go back, watch some, and I'll look forward to this, and I'll tell everybody, and I'll promote the shit out of you too, my friend. It's all about, again, it's not about just children of the morgue here or deceased. About you too. You're doing your share in the underground. We're keeping this out. And if we did not have the internet today, it'd be a little hard because we'd have to soap our stamps and everybody look and go, this is cool, but I really wish I could see the guy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time too, brother, and I wish you the absolute best.
Thank you so much, man. Take care of yourself.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I promised you guys something wild at the start of the podcast, and I certainly hope that conversation did not disappoint. Massive thank you to King Fowley of Deceased for his time. I certainly hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did recording it, because this is not going to be the last time that you will hear him on Into the Necrosphere if I have anything to do with it. You also just heard his band, Deceased, with the title track off their forthcoming album, Children of the Morgue, that gets released on August the 30th by Hell's Headbangers Records. As always, the link to their Bandcamp will be in the description to the podcast, so you can head over there, buy yourself some music, and if you do, you let King and the lads know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere who sent you. Right now, my friends, if you're a grown man who willingly attends slam poetry readings, then take your shriveled up nutsack and hit the bricks, as Drugoth joins me for my weekly news rant.
Round them up for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, well, Drugoth, the man they call Drugoth, welcome to the podcast, and welcome to your very first news rant, first of many, no doubt. You know how this works. We're going to start a metal storm. We're going to listen to some music. We're going to talk some shit. But before we get to anything music related, and I'm going to warn anybody listening right now, probably the next 10, 15 minutes is going to be MMA talk. So you may want to skip ahead if, you don't like the idea of grown men in a cage pounding each other in a strictly violent and non-sexual way. But it would have been remiss of me, mate, not to ask your thoughts on the Israel Adesanya and Dricus Du Plessis fight from last weekend. My countryman retaining his belt, in his words, winning the belt, which I think is interesting. We can touch on that in a second. But did you manage to watch the fight?
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was a good fight, and I thought Adesanya took I don't want to say took the easy way out, but I don't know, if you turn your back like that and just give up the rear naked choke, it's an easy way out. But he was looking pretty good. What was it? It was round 4 rear naked, wasn't it?
Round 4 rear naked choke finish.
Yeah.
I've rewatched that finish a couple of times, because after you mentioned it, I thought, okay, well, let me look and see exactly what's happened here. Like, what gets him into that point where, or what gets him to that place where he's like, I'm done. Because I agree with you. It's like, he almost surrendered the choke at the end there. I kind of feel like it was those 3 shots that he took when he was turning around and almost kind of running away a little bit. Like he did a bit of a Caleb Starnes, turned tail and ran. But those 3 shots that he took to the temple when Dricus was after him, I think that is what contributed in my mind to Dricus being able to finish him with a rear naked choke. I mean, anyone who's been hit against the temple really, really hard knows it really fucking it scrambles the circuits. I suspect he may have been a little worse for wear after those shots.
Yeah, as well. With that being said, him being a little bit scrambled, he would go back to his original thought process and how he's trained his entire life and how he's programmed, which is primarily striking, where the grappling and the grappling defense especially is now somewhat new to him. Like, he's learning and he's getting a lot better. You can see it with each fight in the takedown defense and such. But yeah, I think you just revert to your primal self and what you're ingrained in from learning for so long, as opposed to the new things. And he just...
But would that not depend on how
habits.
hard you've been hit? Like, if you've been hit so hard that you're almost at the point of the fight being over, because I kind of feel like, and again, maybe I'd need to rewatch it, but I feel like you could make the argument that the fight was done by the time he took him down and they went to ground. He was probably staggered from those blows, and I don't think he recovered quickly enough.
No, well, yeah, you're right as well. If, like I said, you revert to your go-to sort of techniques and your moves. So, getting hit in the temple, even rocked, like hit in the jaw area where you are a bit wobbled. Yeah, mistakes get made. Your guard lowers, obviously. And I do think Dricus just saw the window of opportunity and took it. And, good on him, I thought he was getting pissed up in round 2 and 3, especially. I was, thinking, Adesanya's got this in the bag. But it's weird. He was copping some pretty big shots and it sort of just bounced off him. Like, nothing.
South African mentality.
Really. Yeah. Well, as well, I think he just wanted it more.
Yeah.
Which is a big factor, I think.
Did you hear what he said in the press conference, actually before and after the fight?
Which one?
One of the things he was talking about, and I knowing the South African mindset as I do, I can tell you right now he wasn't kidding. He basically was saying he's willing to die to defend the belt, and he's willing to take a life to get the belt. Like the reason I say that was very authentic. Like that's not just big talk. If there's a really, really great documentary that anyone who's remotely a fan of rugby needs to watch, it's called Chasing the Sun. There's 2. There's Chasing the Sun that came out in 2019, and then there's Chasing the Sun 2 that came out in 2023. It's basically following the Springboks through their consecutive World Cup victories. But one of the things that they talk to the players about before they go out in the field is they're basically saying if these guys are on your try line, you need to imagine it's somebody trying to break into your house and kill your family. That's like the level of intensity you need to have when it comes to defending your try line. So that sort of life and death, bodies on the line mentality, it's ingrained in South African sporting culture, especially male sporting culture. So what he was saying there, I can assure you that is exactly what he thinks when he goes into the cage. So your point around him wanting it more, that his mindset would be he's more than happy to be stretched out of there if it means at least he kind of did his best to try and win the belt. Because again, like I said, in his mindset, he also made this interesting point to say, I don't see myself as the defending champion when I go in. I see myself as trying to win the belt again.
Yeah, which was a good way of him putting it, as opposed to all this trash talk and saying, "Oh, I'm the best," blah blah blah. I've got the belt for a reason, which I like that mindset that he had, and I agree. As a fighter, you should have that mindset, because there's some people that, like I'm one, for example. I don't compete anymore for many reasons, but I was always very conscious of hitting my opponent. Like, we're both in there to do the same thing, but I didn't. I felt bad. That was the big thing. I would feel bad about doing it and say sorry and stuff like that, as I've just cracked him or something like that. And but yeah, the thing that got me through it was I just had to imagine it's almost like an on and off button in my mind that I would turn on the moment I would walk in. And it's the exact same thing, that if I don't stop this person, he's going to get through me and get to my loved one. And that worked for me, but it took time, like, to sort of get into that mental space where these people, being professionals and high end athletes, I'm sure it's just simply, it takes them 30 seconds and they're in that mindset. But yeah, I thought it was a very, very good fight. It was a good title fight, because there's been some absolute dog shit fights on Adesanya's title reign, which seemed like he was just fighting to just earn another one of those little rubies to put on his belt. And I don't know. As well, I always think before and after, like, what would happen if he did win? Who's he going to fight? He's already cleaned out the middleweight division.
Well, he would probably
once.
do a rematch against Sean Strickland. That's what would make the most sense.
Yeah, but and then we'll say that happens, and then what? What's he going to do? Is he going to fight Robert Whittaker again? I wouldn't mind seeing it, because I think I think they're both very good fighters. But, you know, like, who have we got? No, I can't really think off the top of my head. And it seems at the moment in the UFC anyway, I watch a lot of One Championship. I prefer that, honestly. But, with UFC, it seems to be like they win a belt and then immediately they're trying to jump up a weight division and this and that. And I don't know. I think Adesanya handled it well. He cleaned out the division and then he tried to go up.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And I think that I think the fact that it's become almost the done thing to try and jump up a weight class, I'm not in favor of that. Chuck Liddell never jumped up in weight. You think of the great legends. Anderson Silva never, he did, but he very much defended his middleweight belt for a lengthy period of time. As far as I'm concerned, if you're the champion, you should be willing to take on all comers in your weight division, regardless of who it is. Yes, build up and sell fights, but from my perspective, I don't think if I were in that position, and I never will be, but imagining myself in that position, I don't think that I would turn around and say, I'm not fighting this person because it doesn't make sense for me to fight them. I'm like, if he wants to fight, get in the cage, and then, if I beat him previously, I'll beat him again. But let me ask you this question. This ties into what I said to you before we started recording. I do believe that in order to enjoy rugby and in order to enjoy mixed martial arts, you need to knowingly ignore probably 90 to 95% of the fucking slobber that comes out of the mouth of the average fan of both of those sports. What's your take on this, and on the analysis of Dricus's fighting style, and this idea that he somehow, and many people posted it on YouTube, Facebook, everywhere else, that he got lucky, and that he's basically gotten lucky up to this point in his career in the UFC.
Well, I don't watch any of those. What is it, MMA Junkie and all those fight breakdowns and the MMA news? I don't watch any of them. Because they're all just clickbait, just bullshit. Doesn't make any sense. But I think he's definitely worked his way to the top and he's earned where he is. He's very good. Yes, his style is unusual. Like it looks ugly. Yeah, I'll admit that. But it works. Like when I'm at the gym, like I fight with my hands very low, like Piera sort of style, like very low, and I'm in and out. People always get mad at me. They say that I'm on my bicycle because I'm always like not running backwards, but I'm always in and then I'm out, like very quick darting, and they get furious about it and they're like, oh, it looks terrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, you got to be in the pocket more. It's like, but it's working. I'm not getting hit and your face is all fucked up. So if it works, do it. And I'm sure he got a bigger paycheck than he would have if he lost the belt. So keep doing it, man.
Yeah. So it was interesting. A lot of the MMA shows prior to the fight didn't really give him much of a chance. They were all in on Izzy. Afterwards, I thought, even guys that I usually don't really enjoy all that much, like Luke Thomas and things like that, they were pretty complimentary of him. Luke Thomas in particular, actually, which was surprising. It was mostly the fans, but I just thought to myself, this is the issue that I have with the MMA fan base, is most of those people, the closest they've come to being in a fight is playing boxing on their fucking, brother's Nintendo Wii. And so they look at this guy and they go, well, he's just been lucky to make it to this point in time. Izzy was beating him, he lost to Strickland. It's like, he has beaten 8 men consecutively in the UFC, including the natural successor to Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya, one of the toughest guys of all time in Sean Strickland, and one of the best middleweights of all time in Robert Whittaker. And he's finished all but Sean Strickland. You don't get there through fucking luck. And then on top of that, people talk about technique, but I mean, Chuck Liddell's technique was weird. There's a lot of other guys whose technique is off kilter. It doesn't look video game perfect. But wasn't it Bruce Lee that said the best technique is no technique? You find what works for you.
Well, that's right. Like the same thing. People, I'm very drawn to people who are perfectionists and who are very, very good at their original martial art. Like I love Khabib. I love the Dagestani crew. I know when I go to the pub to watch the fights, because I can't be fucked paying the pay-per-view price, and the people in the pub are just like, oh, this is boring. All he's doing is wrestling. I love that. I think his skill is the best, and that's why he's making it work. And it's just pure domination as a wrestler. And I love that stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you, but with Khabib, the most impressive performance I ever saw from him was against Edson Barboza. You talk about, phenomenal technique. Edson Barboza on the feet he's a thing of beauty. He's incredible to see. That, I think it was the end of the first round, he had really roughed Barboza up on the ground, and you could just see on Edson's face, he thought to himself, fuck this. I'd have to do another 10 minutes of this bullshit. Like, he was done, like mentally checked out at the end of that first round.
And Barboza is someone who, I can't remember what it is, but I think it's at least 3 or 4 TKOs by leg kicks. So like he could be kicking the shit out of this dude's leg, but instead he's getting mauled like as if it was a bear. Yeah, that was impressive. My favorite one was him with Gaethje. I thought that was it was when Gaethje challenged him for the belt. I don't know if that was through COVID or anything, but I don't think there was much of a crowd, probably in that Apex thing, but that was very impressive. Just his mentality and the respect that was shown. I applauded that a lot, because he said, I think he mentioned in the post-fight interviews that he heard Gaethje say, I'm not going to tap to whatever submission he gets me in. I refuse to tap. And Khabib knew that his family was there watching the fights. And he said, I don't want to, break your arm, because they have the armbar finish. He's like, I don't want to break your arm in front of your family. So he quickly transitioned to a triangle choke and put him out unconscious, which is far more... I'd rather that too than a broken arm. But I just thought that level of skill to just transition, which isn't like a hard transition, but at the professional level, I'm sure it's not easy. And that level of skill and respect for his opponent and his family, I thought that was very good to see, especially from the bullshit that he went through with like the McGregor ordeal, where there was the complete other end of the scale of respect. There was zero, where he's able to not go down that path. And yeah, I thought that was very, very, very good of him, and good for the sport, honestly, I think.
About to say, not Frank Mir against Big Nog. That was, I mean, literally the most brutal fucking thing I'd ever seen in my entire life when Frank Mir broke his arm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Once you see it a couple of times, like, it's just like, oh, yeah, nothing too crazy.
I've seen it a few times, but he just did it so quickly and so fucking like, almost sort of, I'm not going to even give you a chance to tap. I'm just pushing through and doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in like the Japanese catch wrestling game. Like my gym specified, it's a speciality. Yeah, so there's a lot of leg locks and stuff involved, and it's not too much anymore, because I've disassociated from the competition side of it. But yeah, it would be weird if you didn't see someone being carted off in an ambulance, or hearing someone's knees just exploded or something. Jesus. But I remember once, yeah, it is what it is. They know what they signed up for. And once again, this is that whole thing where the mindset, like for me, it was a switch in my mind. I just turned it off. If they didn't tap, I ripped this shit apart, and afterwards, like I feel no remorse because same thing. They signed on the dotted line. So, but I remember I had one dude in a toe hold, and they're very effective. The way I do it, the idea is to break their ankle, the ligaments in the ankle, pop the knee out as well, and if I'm very lucky, I can dislocate the hip. And I just heard it sounded like, I'll never forget the sound, but it sounded like cardboard ripping, and
Jesus.
that was something in his ankle, and then he was screaming, and yeah, when I heard the screams, I let go of the limb.
You called Shograath and said, "Bring the dictaphone. We need to record this for an album."
Yeah, we need to give me his other leg, and I'll rip it and record this. This will be sweet.
Yeah, just one last comment on Dricus, and we can move on. I don't know how long the bloke is going to keep his belt for. It could be one more fight, could be 10 more fights. The annoying thing for me is that you're going to have many of these idiots online go, "I told you so," when he finally loses his belt. And it just ignores the fact that, as I said, his track record up to this point has been extraordinarily impressive. And then as a side note, I've spoken about this on the news rant before, but there are few things in this world that fucking piss me off more than when I have to sit and listen to some middle-class douche in the UK or in the US lecturing people like me on my own country's history. That to me is just, I will take all those people and fucking get a metal storm in front of them and just empty the barrel if I could. But anyway, let's move on to some music. I want to ask you a question before we listen to anything. Dude, I was listening to that We Are Legion EP in the car yesterday, and I sat thinking to myself, why the fuck do you not play live? Because your music feels like it is custom built for live mania. It's like, if you were to play live and you were to deliver what you do with the appropriate degree of intensity and energy and gusto, I just can't imagine it not going over incredibly well. Because every song has got, a great breakdown. It's catchy. It's quite simple. So it's going to be one of these things where people can go to a show and not necessarily know the band. They're going to hear it and they're going to go, "Oh my God, this is fucking excellent." I could kind of see it in my mind as I was listening to it yesterday, and I thought it feels to me like such a missed opportunity.
Oh, thank you for one. I would love to play it live. Just, I think maybe it's probably me. Must be a shit person to sort of work with. No one like in my sort of area. I don't know. I can't find like a lineup, I guess. Obviously, Shograath would be in there, probably playing guitar and doing his backing vocals. Whether I would be doing the drum and vocal duty at the same time, probably not. That'll be a bit weird. But on that note, Shograath and we're forging a new band with the intention of playing live. Because honestly, we miss it. It's fun to play live. The last time I played live was maybe January last year, and that was with some raw black metal band that I drummed in, and that was fun. But it wasn't organized. We weren't organized. I was organized, but we weren't organized properly. It was just a two-piece, and I feel like that type of music, if you're going to do it live, you need to go all out. You need to have the fog machines. You need to be, have all the lights off, not really show your faces, or if you do, your face, you got to go corpse paint, and you got to go all out. You can't just, it was just literally just two guys running through a couple of songs, and it was a bit of a letdown for me, but it was fun to play live again. But yeah, this new project me and Shograath are doing, we're hoping we were going to do it this weekend, actually, catch up and have a little jam. But the studio that we work in is getting renovated. So hopefully next weekend we'll get it together, and we'll go from there, really.
Well, I'll put out a call right now to anybody in what area of Australia do you live in?
Brisbane, North Brisbane.
Yeah, so anyone in Brisbane who can play bass and or play guitar and wants to participate in a Shograath Drugoth live extravaganza, reach out to Austin via the Drugoth Instagram. I do think if you just on doing Drugoth live, you'd need to have a full band, because you'd need to have the balls there. You know, it needs to be a heavy crushing sound. I'm not sure you can recreate that with two people, and you also need. You know what I really like? It's going to sound weird when I compare the two bands. Have you ever seen Gaerea live?
No.
If you've ever seen them in a small club, people will know what I mean. Yeah, there's this like complete like anarchic feeling to them, but like also a feeling like you're seeing in, you know, the words of the great Michael, a bunch of lowlifes on stage. You know, they've got their balaclavas on, and you know, El Brujo is standing there with his machete like vocals. It's got this. It's the coolest feeling, and it's so fucking heavy and so groovy and so badass. I kind of think like that's the direction I would take if I were a live producer. That is the direction I would take Drugoth in if I were to produce a Drugoth live show. Like, you know, you guys need to come on there and almost sort of incorporate some elements of like crust punk, hardcore, Gaerea into what it is that you do. And I think if you have the right band, the right guys on stage, and the right energy, I think it would absolutely kill.
Well, yeah, I think just from my background and growing up as well, I would try to make it more like a hardcore show.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't care, stage dive. I don't care if it's black metal. Go fucking nuts. Like, I wouldn't be on the stage. I would be in the crowd just yelling at people and punching people. I don't give a fuck. I want chaos and carnage.
Yeah.
That's what the music represents. That's what I would try to, you know, uphold in a live aspect. But yeah, whether it happens or not, we'll see. But
it definitely feels to me though like your writing on Drugoth in particular is just getting better and better. The tracks on the We Are Legion EP are superb. The previous record, obviously, fantastic. Top 30 of 2023 on this podcast. I know Mike Hill rated it really highly as well. And the thing that you have the ability to do that very few others have, I think, in particularly the modern scene, is you can turn even a fucking drum beat into a hook. You know, the drum beat that you use at the end of Battles May Cease, but War is Forever has just got this. It's like that dun 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 dun. It's got such a fucking cool, like killer, like hook that by way of the groove. I love it. Can't get enough of it.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. But yeah, I just keep it simple and do what I want to do. I don't give a fuck if people like it or not. Then I think that's the best way to write your own music. Just do whatever
100%.
you want to do. Yeah.
All right, let's get into some music of our own. So Fleshgod Apocalypse are releasing Morphine Waltz, or the music video for Morphine Waltz, to promote their newly released full-length opera, Symphonic Death Metal Masters, Fleshgod Apocalypse premiere, and official video for the Morphine Waltz track. I've not yet listened to opera in its entirety, but their singles have probably had the same effect on me that everything else I've heard by this band has had. That being said, let's hear what it sounds like. So whenever I hear a song like this, I try on the news rant not to be a complete dick and just lay into a band and call them crap and then move on to the next thing. So I'll listen to that and I'll try and identify things that maybe it's not in my wheelhouse, but I can at least appreciate. I can appreciate the drumming. I can appreciate how tight the performance is, although, again, I'm not sure how much of that is studio trickery versus, the band just actually being that well rehearsed. But beyond that, there's nothing about this that I enjoy. I think that opening, I think the keyboard that they start the song with, I think is dreadful. I think the melodies are awful. All of this to me it's aimed at people that, and I hope I don't offend anyone by saying this, but I feel like Fleshgod Apocalypse is the kind of band that people by and large get into who 4 years later are no longer into the scene. Then you talk to them like, I grew up, I don't listen to metal anymore. What's your thoughts?
I'd rather shit in my hands than clap than listen to that. To be totally honest. Yeah. Like you said, I'm trying not to just immediately say that this poo is shit, but the piano stuff, not for me. The female vocals, not for me. The drums, I guess, were, they were tight, triggered to the shithouse, but whatever, they're fine. Even like the riff just seemed a little like cheerful, and
that was my thoughts too. It kind of had shades of Hammerfall, and I don't know if you remember that they were a reasonably popular like folk metal band called Turesis. There was something about this that reminds me a little bit of Turesis, and not in a good way. I mean, again, I don't like folk metal or a lot of the Viking metal kind of has the same thing. It's very it has that undercurrent of being quite cheerful and jovial. Some dude was telling me about Bloodstock here in the UK a couple of weeks ago, and Amon Amarth played, and he says, there was a lot of rowing in the crowd. I said to him, like, that to me is completely unacceptable. If I saw rowing in a crowd, those people should be thrown in the back of a fucking truck and taken to the gulags. You can go do your rowing there. It's like, I don't like stuff like that at all. I've always hated it. I don't like anything that's kind of cutesy or nice or sweet. And I'm not saying people should take themselves too seriously. It's just, I am drawn to metal for different reasons altogether than the people that are going to listen to Fleshgod Apocalypse are drawn to metal for. That's the point I'm trying to make.
I think it's, for me, I think you pointed it out in a couple of weeks ago, maybe. It's the same with thrash metal. If I want to listen to thrash metal, I want to listen to stuff that's about, war, satanic sort of ideas, and that's about it. I don't like that new municipal waste, like, fuck yeah, let's drink beers and party.
Let's sit in our backyard and have a keg.
Yeah, nah. Yeah. I don't want any of that shit. It's the same with this. I don't want happy, sort of riffs in my metal. I don't want people rowing. Although Amon Amarth have some, like, I don't think I've listened to their newer stuff, but their older stuff was pretty triumphant, which that's probably the best word, triumphant. I want triumphant stuff in my music. I don't want happy camaraderie. I want, violence.
Yeah, to me, it's, in the words of the great J.K. Simmons, it's not my tempo. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We got Devin Townsend announcing a new studio record called Power Nerd. It says here, on October the 25th, 2024, Devin Townsend will unleash his new studio record, Power Nerd. Additional details and a first single title track, including Hatebreeds, Jamie Jaster as a guest musician, can be checked out down under. Devin says, I would say that a power nerd would be somebody that has a tendency that society has deemed weak or not valuable, whether that's empathy or being an insular person or an introvert, and turns that into a type of personal power. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm sensitive to this, that, and the other thing, but man, I'm going to pull through. I'm going to do things with that sensitivity that are rooted in strength. Now, let me be clear. I really, really loved Strapping Young Lad. Like I remember hearing City for the first time and just being, I mean, I took the CD from the listening booth, ran within about 2 minutes, ran straight to the cash register, paid, loved the record. I enjoyed the other stuff that he did as well. Ocean Machine, I thought was great. Infinity, I thought was good. I liked Physicist. Terrio was starting to maybe jump the shark a little bit. And then what I have not liked, and sometimes you kind of feel bad thinking this because you think, well, he's spoken before about the impact that City had on his mental health and stuff like that. But all of this cheerful metal that he's done over the last couple of years, it is awful to me. And it also celebrates values that I don't agree with. Being a fucking nerd is, I don't know. Maybe it's too much. Maybe I'm too much like Brock Lesnar to like this sort of thing. I look at this and I go, Brock Lesnar wouldn't approve of this, and I kind of feel the same way. Without even hearing the song, I can already tell what the song is going to sound like.
Yeah, I'm speechless just by the song name, the fact that he looks like a turtle without a shell. Just play it. Put me out of my misery.
Well, dude, you know what I also don't understand? The comment here, I would say that a power nerd would be somebody that has a tendency that society has deemed weak or not valuable, whether it's empathy or being an insular person or an introvert. When on earth did society deem empathy as being a trait that's not valuable, or being an introvert for that matter? I'm a bit. The whole thing just sounds like a fucking coked out ramble. It doesn't sound like anything coherent to me. I'm going to pull through. I'm going to do things with that sensitivity that are rooted in strength. So you're going to run around on the street being empathetic towards people. Like you're looking around. Oh, I feel so bad for you, Jackie. Anyway, right. Let's hear what the song sounds like. Right, the song gets a 2 out of 10 for the bit that I listened to it. I think the chorus is reasonable, but this is a 52-year-old man trying his level best to be incredibly funny, failing miserably on this video. And just the song itself, if you think this is the same dude that put out City or put out Heavy as a really heavy thing, it's a sad fall from grace in my opinion, creatively and musically.
I don't know, because
Drugoth is just speechless.
I never really got into Strapping Young Lad or anything, so I feel like I can't really make the comparison. But I liked the bass tone in this. That was about it. Like you said, I don't like the, what did you say? 52-year-old man trying to be funny. It's like, to me, this is just like, it's a dad joke. This whole song, this whole idea is just a dad joke. And I'm not for it.
A very unfunny dad joke as well, because he for anybody that wasn't watching this on YouTube, so he sits and skims through in the music video. He's in some spaceship and he's skimming through his iPad, his spaceship's iPad, and selects, in rather than saving a baby from the train tracks or rescuing a family from a burning building, he decides instead to use his power nerd strength, quote unquote, to go help somebody put together a fucking piece of furniture, and then messes that up. So he's basically celebrating being a complete nutter soy boy in the song or in the video. And again, I don't run around trying to, rescue babies from burning buildings, rescue a baby from the train tracks. But, why on earth do we have to celebrate being a fucking loser? Because I'm sorry, but that's what I would call somebody that's like this.
Yeah, I think I'd rather lie down on train tracks than listen to this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fucking miserable cunt that just runs around, looking grim all the time, but leave the comedy to the fucking comedians. If I want to see comedy, I will watch Dave Chappelle. I've no reason to want to see it on any music videos of any bands I listen to. All right. Now, I tell you what, we need a palate cleanser right quick. So I know it's not popped up on any of the news headlines on Metal Storm yet, and they have put it out some time ago. So I'm going to jump to YouTube real quick because I want us to listen to the new Devenial Verdict. I think that might be a nice way to at least get some of the fucking shite out of our heads that we just heard now. You can see the YouTube screen that I'm sharing?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Okay, so Devenial Verdict, death metal band out of Finland. I had them on the podcast at the beginning of last year. I fucking loved their debut record. They are about to put out a new one called Blessing of Despair. It's coming out via Transcending Obscurity Records. I have been meaning to at least feature one of the singles on the podcast. So let's listen to the most recent one that they released. This one is called Garden of Eyes.
Where the slime live. God.
You know what? Exactly what I was thinking. I was like, there's a really, really heavy Morbid Angel influence here. And I would say it goes all the way to Riku Sarasalu's vocals. Like his inflection reminds me a little bit of David Vincent as well.
But it was heavy as fuck.
Yeah.
Very good. I really like it. I really like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the bass is just punching through that, which I'm a fan of. Bringing back big, thick molasses bass sounds. I'm all for it. But yeah, that was heavy as fuck.
Well, I'm a big fan of their debut. Like I said, that record is called Ash Blind. I think the one thing I may be missing here a little bit is some of the darker elements that were all over Ash Blind. So Ash Blind was similarly dissonant death metal to what we're hearing here, but there was kind of the way that Nightmare bring in some of those dark, like almost black metal melodies. There was a bit more of that on Ash Blind that I'm hearing here. I mean, this could also very much just be sort of a song that kind of stands on its own on the record, and that those melodies are present on some of the other songs. But thumbs up for me. I like the song. Definitely. I mean, you and I were thinking the same thing as far as Morbid Angel was concerned, though. Someone somewhere was listening to Domination and probably Formula's Fatal to the Flesh an awful lot over the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, that's the first time I've heard of this band. I'm going to have to check out their what did you say, their previous album?
Previous album, Ash Blind, and then this new one is called Blessing of Despair.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye out for this one for sure. Yeah, that definitely sounds really cool.
There's another Transcending Obscurity release coming up that I definitely want us to talk about, but let's see if it shows up on the headlines. Krillon have released a new track called Return of the Heralds. I've no idea what Krillon sounds like. The band photo makes me fear the worst, but I've already read the headline now, so we're invested. It says, Krillon have released Return of the Heralds, featuring Evermore's Johan Haraldsson and Johan Carlson, the second single and title track taken from their upcoming album to be released on September the 20th by Scarlet Records. I feel like there's a good chance this might be the worst thing we hear all day, but I'm going to hit play. Let's find out. No, fuck that. I can only take so much of this dog shit. I don't know if you. I doubt very much you're a fan of power metal, but I will say this: if AI is going to become prominent in any subgenre of metal, I would argue that power metal is probably where it will be prolific first, because there are very, very few styles within the scene that is as formulaic or has become as formulaic as power metal.
Yeah, that sucks. That band sucked. Power metal sucks. Moving on.
It's fucking terrible. All right. Gaerea premiere unknown single and video. Black Metal Masters Gaerea have just released a Claudio Marino directed music video for Unknown, the second single from their highly anticipated fourth record, Coma. I think Black Metal Masters is a somewhat ambitious way of describing them, but I do like Gaerea, so let's hear what Unknown sounds like.
for what it is, it's good. It's just not my cup of tea. To me, if I was to describe it, like my rendition of it is, it's to me, from growing up in the hardcore scene. When I say hardcore scene, like the big bands at the time were like Hatebreed, Terror, Madball, and then all of a sudden there was this like influx of all that like sad guy melodic hardcore. And this to me is like the sad guy melodic version of, I guess, I don't know, like modern day black metal, maybe. Not my cup of tea, but it's good. It's good for what it is. Just if I want to listen to this style, I'm going. There's a band, I don't know where they're from. They're called Naxen, Naxen.
Oh yeah, I know you're talking about.
Oh, they do whatever this style is, but it's just darker.
They're from Germany
as well. Oh yeah.
From Germany, and they've just put out an album called Descending into a Deeper Darkness. I think it was you that recommended them to me, actually.
Yeah, it was. I heard it, and I sent it to you, Carl, and a few other people straight away.
Yeah.
And it's very high up on my list for the whatever I do, top 15 or something. But yeah. I don't know. This isn't dark enough for me in this sort of style.
So here's my take on it. I mean, everyone knows I've actually been quite a vocal fan of Gaerea. I'm a vocal fan of them because I think that so I really, really liked their first 3 records. Unsettling Whispers I thought was good. Limbo I thought was outstanding, came out in 2020. And Mirage I really loved as well. I think both Limbo and Mirage, if memory serves me correctly, made it onto my top albums of their respective years. So 2020 for Limbo, 2022 for Mirage. But I feel like Gaerea right now at a dangerous crossroads in their career. They can build on their strengths. They can remember what brought them to the dance. Because, you know, after Mirage, profile went up. I've made the prediction they could be the biggest. I actually made the prediction they will be one of the biggest bands in black metal. Now I'm walking that back a little bit, and I'm going to say they could be, because my fear is they're going too far in a direction of writing for their audience rather than writing for themselves, like tailoring what they're doing towards something that they think is going to do well, or it's almost like they're writing with a view to being successful rather than just producing something that's honest and that's an authentic artistic expression for them. That's one of the things that I'm seeing here. I thought the first single off this album was pretty good, but this song, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced by it, and I feel like not only does it give their many detractors, because I didn't realize how many people hated this band, which has always surprised me. I mean, I truly despise them. But it gives their haters probably more ammunition, and I'm not sure that it satisfies their fans because as a fan, I'm not getting the same excitement and the same rush that I got from Limbo or Mirage hearing this new material.
So I haven't listened to their previous work. I've probably listened to 1 or 2 songs every now and then, just for relevance. But yeah, I'm not a fan of their stuff. I don't know their albums, but I think their live shows now, like big sort of production. Did they tour with like Behemoth and stuff? Like big sort of, yeah. I don't know. That brings me back to the big popular metal band out of Australia, Parkway Drive. Like I saw an interview with them once, and their later material, which, you know, isn't my cup of tea either. I respect them for what they've done and what they're doing, but they sort of write their songs around their live performance of being in gigantic stadiums and stuff like that. So maybe that's possibly the route they're sort of taking. But you being a fan of their previous works, then saying that it's not really that good, then maybe I'm just, you know, out of touch with it all. But yeah, I don't know. Not my thing.
I would just say, you know, and King and I spoke about it on the interview earlier on in this episode. And this was actually with specific reference to the death metal bands that signed to Columbia in the early 90s. They were never going to become as big as they thought that they were going to be, because the average person is not going to be, is never going to be into music that extreme and that heavy. So yes, you might be able to expand your audience a little bit if you soften your style. And I think now that you've mentioned the sad guy hardcore comparison, I actually think you're spot on. But you may be able to expand your audience a little bit, but you're only ever going to be able to expand it so much. I think it's a dangerous game that bands that are on the up in this scene play when they start to soften their sound, or they start to consciously try and expand their audience. I think that's a very, very big mistake to make, because it will put off your fans, like the fans that you built your foundation on, and it's a roll of the dice as to whether you retain or you get anybody new.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You think, like, I look at Crowbar, from their self-titled album that came out in 91 or 92, and then you put that up against their latest album, Zero and Below. You could just say that it's literally a B-side of the self-titled. It's just re-recorded and better production, and I love that. But then again, you'll have people say, I was like, oh, well, they're not progressing as musicians. But Motorhead as well, they found their formula. They make it work, and they love what they're doing. They don't compromise for money or bigger audiences or a bigger crowd, perhaps, but they just do.
Well, I would argue,
they want.
Crowbar and High on Fire to me have kind of walked the same path in their career, and they're arguably more popular than ever. But they're more popular than ever because they never went away from what brought them to the dance. Exactly as you said, Obedience Through Suffering, you can draw a direct line from that record to Zero and Below. And there is a progression on each record. They've not stayed the same. They're not AC/DC or Slayer. They've done different stuff. But what they've done is they have refined their strengths with every record. And sometimes they'll do something that maybe catches you off guard. A great example of that for me, if I think about Crowbar, would be a Maranthine on Symmetry in Black, which I think is absolutely astonishing. I think it's one of the best songs that they ever wrote. But they can throw you with something like that, but they never ever get away from what brought them to the game. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I think if you want sustainable success as a band in this scene, that's the approach to take.
Well, as well on I forgot what the album was. One of the later ones. I don't think it was Symmetry in Black.
Sever the Wicked
No,
Hand.
it was The Serpent Only Lies. The song Song of the Dunes. It was, funnily enough, after that album came out, Crowbar did their first ever Australia tour, and my wife and we did the entire tour with them. And I got Kirk's signature tattooed on my leg, and I've got a shrine to Crowbar.
Holy shit! I didn't realize that your Crowbar fandom goes that deep. I knew like me, you were a very big fan, but I didn't realize it's like at that level.
No, I'll send you a photo later. It's me with all of them, and my wife and Kirk's wife Robin. They message each other all the time on Facebook. Yeah. We would hang out at the airport and everything. I did the whole tour. It was great. And Song of the Dunes was very clean guitar and bluesy. And I was talking to Kirk about it, and this was before his solo album. And and we were talking about the solo album. And I was like, he was trying to describe it to me, and I was like, is it like Song of the Dunes, like the clean guitar and the slower, sort of more bluesy, not Crowbar style? And he's like, yeah, that's the best comparison I could sort of give you. And I was like, man, that song was good. I really liked that song. It was a good palate cleanser for the album. And if it's anything like that, I'm going to be very excited for the first solo album, which was A Dream in Motion, and I loved that album. And I'm pretty sure he's got a new one on the way, which I'm very excited about too.
I would love for him to do something with his solo work that colors outside the lines a bit more. I kind of feel like if we could get something where he's, playing acoustic guitar or something like that, which I know he's messed around with things like that. He's recorded stuff like that by himself, but he doesn't really put it out. I almost in a weird way feel like he doesn't have the confidence to do it, and I think he would be surprised by the response. But I would love to hear him just do something, that completely catches people by surprise, because he is such a talented songwriter and such a talented musician.
Oh, his vocals as well. Like, imagine those vocals over top of an acoustic guitar, or like a steel string guitar or something. That would be fantastic, especially with the whole New Orleans sort of style and background. Like,
what I was
from there, so
hugely excited about was when Down had been talking about putting out an acoustic record a while back. And I kind of was imagining it being along the lines of, if you go to Down 2, the song Where I'm Going, I thought it was kind of, it would, they might be doing something in that line, because Where I'm Going to me is one of the best tracks on that record. It's a phenomenal album, period. But Where I'm Going is a real centerpiece of the album. Learn from This Mistake is another good example. I was like, if you're going to do a whole album in that vein, fuck, I'm fully on board for that.
Yeah, we can only hope, I guess. But then, like, I heard Kingdom of Sorrow, and I was like, so you're telling me Kirk Winstein and Jamie Jasta of Hatebreed are doing a band together? This is going to be just the heaviest thing I've ever heard. But nothing really, like, it just, maybe it's one of those things where it's like too good to be true. Like, there's too much awesomeness in that band, and it didn't deliver. The Kingdom of Sorrow albums, I tried to force myself to like it, and I couldn't, sadly. But
I quite like it. And I'll tell you what songs may be worth you revisiting. Grieve a Lifetime on the first record and Buried in Black are both fucking excellent. And I mean, Behind Blackest Tears, the actual title track, fantastic. Salvation Denied, superb. Trying to think what the other one is that I really liked off that album. I think it might be Torchlight Procession. But no, I always quite like that album. I'll tell you what, Jamie Jasta project I fucking loved, and it's a shame you can't really find it anymore. It's also a shame that he only ever did it once. Ice Pick.
Oh,
That Ice Pick album that's fucking hard. That's man's music, that. There's no doubt about it.
What's the song? It's my pump up song before I go to the gym if I'm feeling like shit. Real recognizes real.
Oh, genius. Absolute genius, that.
With Ice-T in it as well. Holy shit. Like, body count.
I think my favorite part of Real Recognize Real actually is the Freddie Madball vocal, because everyone kind of takes a turn to do a verse. But when he like does our impact is forever felt, it's like genius, absolute fucking genius. But that whole entire record, start to finish, is a masterpiece. I'm just going down the track listing right now. It kind of hits its stride really in the middle chunk of the album. So, A Violent Epiphany, Creations of Chaos with One Ideal. That fucking breakdown at the end of One Ideal is just one of the most insane things ever. As a matter of fact, just so people know what we're talking about, they need to hear that. Hopefully they've got it on YouTube. Just to illustrate my point, this bit that we're about to hear now, this is one of the most badass breakdowns in the fucking history of hardcore. Like, whenever I've needed to pick me up, this has been one of the things I've listened to. That gets my fucking dick hard, mate. There's just nowhere for the testosterone to go otherwise.
See why doesn't Fleshgod Apocalypse, listen to this and think, where did we go wrong?
Yeah. Dude, and everything about this album is great. I mean, you've got the dual vocals with Danny Diablo and Jamie, and then all these other guests that come in. I mean, straight after With One Ideal, you've got A Show of Force, which is also a masterpiece. Nothing Without Loyalty, track number 9. Fucking everything on this album is fantastic. And also, fun fact for any MMA fans, Onward to Victory used to be Andrei Arlovsky's walkout song.
There's Danny Diablo and Hoyer, previously of Madball, the bass player. They've got a new project out. I can't remember the name. Shit, that's going to piss me off.
Isn't it called like Smoke something? Because I'm sure I got a promo for that, and it's actually pretty cool. I think Hoyer is a really cool dude in any case. So
yeah, it's just like a demo or something, but it's pretty fucking cool.
I'm just having a quick gap. Yeah, it's called Smoke AD, I think.
That's it. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Dude, Hoyer's greatest moment. And again, anyone listening to this for black or death metal, indulge us for a while. Also, start going to the gym so you can truly understand and appreciate this music. This was Hoyer's greatest moment ever. 32 seconds of the fucking meanest shit you'll ever hear. And I love on the video, I love the way they intro it. Let me just get it playing from the start.
When we meet people in the airport, they ask him, what kind of music do you play? He's like, you wouldn't like it. It's loud. It's You describe hardcore. When you got like a minute and you can try to catch a flight. You say, look, it's crazy, man. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hardcore, we live this, we breathe this. You can't stop what can't be defeated. Hardcore pride, hardcore pride, hardcore pride, hardcore lives in me.
And when they do that live, I mean, people get fucking absolutely out of their minds. Because I've seen Madball a couple of times now. They'll do Demonstrating My Style, and they'll normally do this straight before or straight after. And it's just, it's perfect. Absolute fucking perfection.
Yeah. No, Hoyer's a character. Even live, I flew down to Melbourne to see them, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And it was wild, like such a small venue. And he was like helping people up onto the stage to then stage dive and stuff. Like, it was sick, man. It was so good. He's not in Madball anymore, though, I don't think.
No, he isn't. He left, which I'm very surprised by. He was in Madball for, 20 years? I mean, it'd be longer than that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in that camp, but yeah, I don't know. I was just I was thinking about that today, honestly, because I blasted Infiltrate the System before and after. Like, I went to the gym this morning to train some people, and I usually get there about an hour and a half early and just work out myself. And I was like, what do I need today? I was like, yep, Infiltrate the System. That'll get me through. And yeah, that got me really, really pumped up and going good. And then the people I was training, they weren't really happy with me about that, because when I'm excited, they got to work harder. But it was good.
So again, while we're on YouTube, one other song I wanted to be sure we listen to on this episode is the new single by Veilburner. So Veilburner, had them on the podcast. Great guys. Really, really like this band. I think they're probably my favorite Transcending Obscurity signing. Obviously, their previous record was called Veilburner. They've now got a new one out called The Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom. And the first single to be released off of this is called Visions of Hex-Shaped Hiss, Behead the Howling Spirit. So let's give this a quick listen. fucking love this. Love it. That opening riff with that kind of dive is just so sinister and mean sounding, and then you go into this atmospheric bit that in a weird way kind of reminds me of some of the more avant-garde stuff that was on Esoteric Warfare, and some of the maybe even Ordo at KO. I think Chrism Infernium's vocals sound fantastic. I mean, it sounds like he's channeling Attila there in the best possible way, and then the song picks up again, adds a bit of muscle at just the right time, so it doesn't sort of leave you going, okay, you've set the atmosphere now, show me what else you can do. It's a 7-minute track, and we've listened to 2.5 minutes, so it's always hard to form a complete view of what it sounds like. But I just think these guys are so unique and do something that's so interesting and always so unexpected. Like they're none of their albums repeat, do anything to repeat what they've done previously. So to me, this is unequivocally, this is a top notch for me. What's your verdict?
Well,
not your tempo.
The vocals are cool.
Yeah.
Musically, it just sounds like, I don't know, a couple of guys having a jam session, like some those like shit folk festival things, and there's just like
folk festivals.
And they're just like having a mad jam session, and people are just like eating their teeth and mushrooms and just losing their minds. And I don't know, the artwork's cool.
Yeah,
I'll give them that. Just, I don't know. Like you said, we listened to 2 minutes 36 seconds.
Yeah.
Does it like kick off into is there a riff in this song, or is it just some guy just having a guitar wank or what? But you're right. It's different.
And they are a band that they definitely take time to fully wrap your head around. If you go back and you listen to the previous record, I knowing your taste in music the way that I do, I'd be quite surprised if you don't like it. But it's a record to listen to end to end. It kind of makes sense. Then it brings the picture into focus.
Okay, all right. I get that because I'm all for that. I really enjoy. I miss that. When I was a young kid, listening to an album front to back, and it tells you like the story from front to back. When now people are just, they listen to a single, like me, just here. I listen to 2 minutes, 36 seconds, and I make my judgment on the entire thing. But I'll listen to the whole thing, or their previous album, like you mentioned, and sort of see what they're trying to get across. But at the moment, for me, it's not giving me a stiffy at all.
Yeah, it's not doing the same thing that Icepick does, dude.
No.
All right, well, we've been at it now for well over an hour, so I think it's probably a good place to wrap it up. We will definitely do more of these in the future. It was fucking absolutely awesome having you on. I am going to wrap up with a song that, I say jokingly, I mean half jokingly, possibly even quarter jokingly. This podcast is all about casting hexes and slaying posers. The quickest way that you know somebody's a fucking complete poser is if they don't like the first 3 Sinister records, Cross the Sticks, Diabolical Summoning, and Hate. And considering the fact that one of the recurring themes on this particular episode has been old school death metal, no better song to play than one of these songs that I first fell in love with on Death Is Just the Beginning 3, also referenced earlier in this episode, Leviathan by Sinister off their fucking landmark record, Diabolical Summoning. I want to say thank you very much to you, Drugoth, for your time. I want to say thank you to King Fowley for his time. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Whatever it is that you are doing, wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you bad motherfuckers again next week.